they are conducting two-tier policing, but how is this helpful to them?
Yeah, I mean, 26 police officers being injured is horrendous. And people will say it's not as bad as Notting Hill, it's not as bad as other demonstrations, but it is horrible, it is bad. I feared something like that would happen. There is no defence of the use of violence that some people used on Saturday, but I do repeat, not defending any of it, but I do repeat, the vast majority of those who caught the train to London for the day were good, ordinary, decent people.
Just on the point about reform spending plans, firstly, I do have great confidence in Zia Yusuf's ability to put together a comprehensive and workable plan, and part of what we intend to do over the coming months is to involve the public and experts as much as possible in the development both of policy and of implementation. So I have absolute confidence that we currently have and will have fully costed, highly workable plans. On the point about spending, my objection to Reform's position a few months ago was on their welfare policy, when, as Shadow Welfare Minister for the Conservatives, I was encouraging restrictions in DWP spending. What I'm glad to say is that at Reform's party conference a couple of weeks ago, Nigel, from the main stage, committed the party to welfare reform. It is completely unsustainable that we are spending so many tens of billions of pounds more every year on benefits. So in order to support low-income families, in order to ensure that people get opportunities to work and to ensure that families are supported, we do need to reform the benefit system. And I'm very glad that that's the position that Nigel is in.
We will do a press conference next week at which we will show you how we propose to save huge amounts of money. And that'll be next week, probably Monday, but we'll see. That concludes the press conference. Thank you very much, everybody. Danny, welcome on board. Well done.
Wow. What an extraordinary defection there. Danny Krueger, an intellectual powerhouse of the Conservative Party, defecting to Reform, the first sitting MP defection of this Parliament.
He's also the son of Prue Leith.
Certainly is.
Yes.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It's now 12 o'clock on Monday, the 15th of September. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Acquare.
Well, as we were discussing, the Conservative Shadow Minister Danny Krueger has defected to Reform, sensationally claiming the Conservative Party is finished.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left.
Peter Mandelson's scandal just won't go away. Sir Keir Starmer under growing pressure from his own MPs over the sacking of his US ambassador.
All this political news comes with Donald Trump arriving in the UK this very week. Labour insiders warn the Prime Minister must reset his leadership again or face questions about how long he can last.
Channel migrants set to be deported on Air France flights this week. The first removals under Sir Keir Starmer's partial returns deal with France. But will this actually go ahead?
Well, there's certainly likely to be legal challenges. If all goes well, it will be a few dozen migrants. Compare that to 5,500 who've arrived here since this deal became operational.
The Prime Minister says that Britain's flag will not be surrendered to fear and division. This after more than 150,000 joined Tommy Robinson's rally in London over the weekend. With 25 arrests there, but far more at Notting Hill Carnival, is there now a double standard in how these events are judged?
Charlie Kirk's suspected killer not cooperating with investigators. Utah's governor confirms. As punk duo Bob Dylan see his show cancelled after controversial on-stage remarks about Kirk's assassination.
Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few.
Yes, it's 85 years today since the Battle of Britain. This, as a new poll reveals that 2 in 3 under 40s don't even know what it is.
well as thousands took to the skies to defend Britain. We're here in Blackpool at the Spitfire Visitor Centre, learning all about those operations as those German bombers came over Britain. This was when the war started to turn in our favour, and we'll be telling you all about that this hour.
Meanwhile, here in Kent, a service of memorial has taken place to the few, the 3,000 airmen on this wall here who were being remembered today.
Oh, it's so windy out there. I don't think my wig could sustain that if I had to go and do that. Could you imagine? That would be like one of those moments where it goes...
Amazing, amazing. But of course, today, the bombshell political news, that defection. I mean, this is steering a completely different course over the course of this week than I was expecting. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Danny Krueger is such a sort of intellectual powerhouse of conservative thought. One of the criticisms that people throw at Reform is that sort of they do the broad brushstrokes, they don't do the detail, they don't do the serious thinking. But now they've got a serious thinker amongst their ranks.
Wasn't there a character called Danny Krueger in one of the, or was that different? I'm thinking in one of the Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that.
Well, that is going beyond me, but I think the politics of this...
No, genuinely, though, I think this is... I don't know whether it's really such a good thing to have so many, for Reform to be awash with sort of Tory MPs. I think they got us into this mess, a lot of people will see. And whilst Danny Krueger might be good right now, I think a lot of people who are, moving to Reform will be a little bit concerned if there's suddenly a wave of local Tory MPs and former MPs suddenly joining the party.
It is interesting, isn't it? Of the 5 MPs they now have, Sarah Pochin was a Conservative mayor. Lee Anderson was a Conservative MP, and Danny Krueger, of course, was a Conservative. That's a majority of the MPs that Reform now have were elected at some point as Conservatives.
Now, I get it, that they will be slightly more right-leaning. They believe in conservatism. Danny Krueger said that the Conservative Party is over, but conservatism isn't dead. So I hear what he's saying. I guess that's they're the most sort of obvious bedfellows, as it were. But what do you think? GBNews.com/you'll say. Does it kind of put you off if more Conservative MPs start to join Reform? We'd love to hear your thoughts. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Tom, Nana, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 5 minutes past 12. And to breaking news, Danny Krueger, the Member of Parliament for East Wiltshire, has defected to Reform UK from the Conservatives. He becomes the first sitting Conservative MP to defect to the party. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage made the announcement during a press conference this morning where he revealed Mr Krueger as the party's new head of preparing for government. The MP said that he began thinking about defecting when Lee Anderson also joined the party.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. But I'm not despondent, because conservatism is not over. It's never been needed more, and actually it's never been more vibrant. Because the failure of the Conservative Party has created space for an alternative.
Well, elsewhere in politics, the Prime Minister is facing further pressure from Labour MPs after he was forced to sack the US ambassador last week. Sir Keir Starmer is reportedly pinning his hopes on President Trump's state visit to regain the initiative and stave off a backbench revolt. Reports over the weekend suggest that the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, is set to launch a leadership bid to oust Sir Keir Starmer as Labour leader. The pressure comes as the Prime Minister sacked former American ambassador Lord Mandelson over his relationship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghardt, spoke to GB News earlier.
Last week, we were calling on the government to just come clean about what had happened with the whole Mandelson affair so that it didn't overshadow this visit, this very important visit, by the President of the United States. They haven't done that. It's dragged on into this week, and we're going to be trying again today to get the government to publish all of the Mandelson Epstein files so that everybody can see what the Prime Minister knew, when he knew it, and how this appointment came to be made in the first place.
GBNews sources have confirmed that deportation flights for Channel migrants entering the UK illegally will leave this week. Sources will not, however, confirm reports that the first flight will leave today. Under Sir Keir Starmer's partial returns deal with France, asylum seekers who arrived in the UK last month have been issued with formal removal directions, telling them they'll be deported back to France within 5 days. Those returns are now reportedly imminent. There are reports also that asylum seekers will be escorted by Home Office security staff on commercial Air France flights rather than a chartered aircraft. The UK and the US have agreed a deal to boost the building of nuclear plants in both countries, with a deal amounting to $100 billion in commercial agreements. Downing Street said that this week will see a, quote, step change in the so-called special relationship between the two nations, as the leaders are also expected to sign a tech partnership. US Ambassador to the United Kingdom, Warren Stevens, said that the deal illustrates how new US nuclear technology can help the UK meet its, quote, increasing energy needs. The deal is expected to be signed during the state visit this week. The family of former world champion Ricky Hatton have paid tribute to the boxer after his death at the age of 46. In a statement released by Greater Manchester Police, his family said he inspired generations, adding that to us he was our son, a loving father, grandfather, brother and true friend to many. Mr Hatton was found dead at his home in Hyde on Sunday morning. The death is not being treated as suspicious by police. The prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann has refused to speak to British police. The Metropolitan Police sent a so-called international letter of request to 49-year-old Christian Bruckner, who is due to be released from prison in Germany this week. The German national has never been charged in the McCann case and denies all involvement. He has now rejected the Met's request to speak to him over the disappearance of the 3-year-old in 2007. A man in his 30s has been arrested on suspicion of rape after a Sikh woman reported a, quote, racially motivated attack on her way to work. The victim, reported to be a British-born Sikh in her 20s, told officers a racist remark was made to her during the incident in Oldbury last Tuesday. The perpetrators allegedly told the woman, "You don't belong in this country, get out," as they sexually assaulted her, the Sikh Federation said. West Midlands Police said the man was detained yesterday evening and remains in custody. And some more breaking news to bring you. The UK has summoned the Russian ambassador following the country's, quote, unprecedented violation of NATO airspace, the Foreign Office has said. Both Romania and Poland have condemned Russia's violation of their airspace over the past week, and a Foreign Office spokesman said that the UK stands united with Poland, Romania, Ukraine and our NATO allies in reservedly condemning these reckless actions. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's get a quick look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3597 and €1.1572. The price of gold is £2,678.88 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,285 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. We start with the huge news that broke about an hour ago. Danny Krueger has defected from the Conservative Party to Reform UK, where he'll head up a department that will help to prepare the party for government.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. I am honoured to have been asked by Nigel to work with him, with Zia Youssef, with Richard Tice and our other colleagues to help Reform prepare for government. This is a team with the vision, the energy and the ideas that we need. Reform UK is a radical force, but not a revolutionary one. Our mission is not just to overthrow the current system. It is to restore the system that we need. Limited government, accountable power, a strong society, a state that works in the interests of the people. Radical restoration. That is the reform the country needs.
Radical restoration rather than revolution. A really interesting and deep philosophical approach to what actually is going on in our politics today. This is why people are saying this is a very significant defection, not just because of the position that Danny Krueger holds, but sort of how he thinks too?
Well, I think it's a very Westminstery story, but it is a big story. I think the general public might be looking on it in a slightly different way and be thinking, do we really want the reform, really want more of these Tory MPs who destroyed the economy all those years ago, and actually they did it in such a sensational fashion and literally ate themselves from the inside out? Do we want more of those people in Reform UK, which is supposed to be a transformative, different party than what we've already had?
Well, why don't we put some of those questions to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who is there live at the event in central London. Chris, what a shock.
It really is a shock. Morning, Alan. Morning, Tom. It really is a shock. I mean, because in the past it's been, frankly, Tory government retreads, ex-Tory MPs coming across who, frankly, have had their best years behind them. Danny Krueger does not tick that box. He is a deep thinker on the right, centre right of the Tory party. Someone with his career in front of him. He's a front bench welfare spokesman, benefits spokesman. He's someone who is respected and was well known, by Robert Jenrick, helped run his campaign to be leader last autumn. This will damage Kemi Badenoch. The question now, of course, is what happens next? Will more come over? Earlier, I asked a question of Danny Krueger and said simply this: what do you see in Nigel Farage as leader that you don't see in Kemi Badenoch, apart from a rather large poll lead? Here's what he said in reply.
I don't want to make a comparison between Nigel and Kemi. I have great personal regard for her, actually. I think she's done a very, very difficult job with courage and resilience, and I like her personally. I think the problem is the Conservative Party. So I think that, unfortunately, whatever leader we have, the Conservative Party is finished as the principal opposition to the left. But the good news is we do have a great alternative in Reform Party, my new colleagues, and in its leader, who I think does have the character and the track record of persistent commitment to the cause and to the interests of the British people.
There we have Danny Krueger saying he's coming over. He doesn't want to take any pot shots at the leader. He thinks any Tory leader would find it very difficult. He was critical in other questioning, of course, saying that Robert Jenrick would have come out of the traps quicker rather than, frankly, disappear for 1 or 2 years. That was Danny Krueger's description of how Kemi Badenoch has led the party. We have had this in the past half an hour, a response from the Tory leader to this defection.
Danny has made his case very clear that this is not about me. I can't be distracted by that, and I'm not going to get blown off course by these sorts of incidents. I know that this is the sort of thing that is going to happen while a party is changing. I am making sure that people understand what Conservative values are.
These sort of things will happen while her party reshapes. That implies that more Tories may be coming across. This is seismic. It is the first sitting Conservative MP to jump to Reform UK. Lee Anderson, of course, when he defected before the election, he wasn't a sitting Tory MP. He was suspended at the time. There won't be a by-election in East Wiltshire. There had been a questioner also asked at the press conference, will you have one? Nigel Farage says that's not necessary. So, big news here, and a setback for Kemi Badenoch after, frankly, a good week when she's put some blows over on 10 Downing Street, on Prime Minister Keir Starmer, over the Peter Mandelson affair. It is a difficult time now for Kemi Badenoch going to a crucial conference in 2 or 3 weeks' time.
I wonder whether Kemi Badenoch regrets some of her words that she said on television just a week ago, which was, if people don't like the way I'm running the party, they're welcome to leave.
Well, yes, that was quite strong and did raise eyebrows. I mean, I think she is running the party in a way she thinks is right, but she hasn't come out of the traps running. She, as I've been saying on air for GBNews several times, that she says it's a marathon, not a sprint, which I would say it's frankly you're a marathon runner in a sprint. You know, you're losing the race here to people like Reform UK. They're now down to 17 points. Nigel Farage told us in a press conference he thinks the Tories will go down further, privately, maybe as low as 12%. His point is, if you want to get rid of Labour, give up on the Tory party and vote Reform UK. And that clearly is a position now which Danny Krueger thinks of too. I should say that Danny Krueger is giving interviews elsewhere in the room I'm in and will be coming over shortly to speak to us very, very soon.
Well, Chopper, we'll be right back with you as soon as you can grab Mr. Krueger himself.
All right, well, thank you very much, Christopher Hope. Right, we're joined now by political commentator Theo Usherwood.
Very good afternoon.
Theo, welcome to the programme. What are your thoughts on this? And is this a win for Reform UK, or would it be seen potentially as damaging another Conservative MP, or another Tory party member heading that way?
It's a significant defection, make no mistake about it. You know, Chris is completely right in his analysis. This is the first sitting Conservative MP. He held a key position as working on the shadow benefits brief, welfare brief for Kemi Badenoch, and he has been a standard bearer for the Tory right. If you think about he led the opposition to the assisted dying legislation. Of course, that's split across party lines, but there were a number of Conservative MPs who had significant concerns, many religious concerns, and deeply held about the legislation, the Private Members Bill, which came through the House of Commons. So he has a following amongst Conservatives. And as you say, Tom, in your introduction, this is somebody who is a deep thinker, who, of course, doesn't wear his politics lightly. So this is a significant defection. It is a blow for the Conservative Party, especially after Kemi Badenoch led very effectively Prime Minister's questions last week in really holding the Prime Minister to account on his decision to appoint Peter Mandelson as the British ambassador to Washington.
That is a really interesting point. Do you think that Nigel Farage has had this in his back pocket and was waiting to deploy this defection at a time that, frankly, would knock the wind out of Kemi Badenoch's sails? Because Kemi, as you said, has had a pretty good 7 or so days. I mean, she turned the media narrative away from what it was towards crisis in government.
Yes, and it is. You know, I'm sure there'll be a huge amount of frustration within CCHQ at the fact that Farage has used this moment when Kemi Badenoch, as you say, Tom, was doing relatively well compared to previous performances at the dispatch box, to actually turn the spotlight back onto the government, to capitalise on Angela Rayner's resignation. And she, you know, we were talking about, of course, over the weekend, extensively about, you know, who knew what when about Peter Mandelson's links to Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted paedophile. And now we're talking about back on to Nigel Farage's agenda to, in effect, destroy the Conservative Party. But a word of warning, I think there is, Nana, there is credence to the point that you were making, that it's really important that reform keeps to its name, that it wants to reform politics and it doesn't turn into rehash the Conservative Party. And there's a real danger, I think, that Nigel Farage wants to win the Labour red wall, and that if he's if he takes too many defections from the Tories, then it just looks like a rebrand. And he wants, the defection he really wants is a Labour MP to come across to say that Keir Starmer hasn't got it. That would be a moment for Nigel Farage, and this defection makes it a little bit more difficult because, of course, Danny Krueger is so Tory.
Well, the timing as well is quite perfect in the sense that Labour are also in flux, and Andy Burnham is potentially going to lead the party. How realistic is that? It sounds like a great idea. He's a great orator. He has a lot of charisma, but how easy will it be for him to be in a position where he could potentially run for leader of the Labour Party?
Well, there are a few hoops to jump through, and it's just worth bearing in mind that the mechanism to get rid of a Conservative leader is much easier than it is to get rid of a Labour leader. So firstly, he has to win a by-election, and you'd think that somebody like Andrew Gwynn, the former health minister, who of course had to resign, the Labour whip after he was disgraced about a WhatsApp group, would give up his seat. It would be very interesting to see what reform does at that point. Does it actually stand aside? Because we know what happened in Runcorn and Helsby back in May. There is no safe Labour seat. So it would be very interesting to see whether actually reform and the other parties soft pedal that, ensure that Andy Burnham gets into Parliament so that he can launch his challenge.
Theo Usherwood, I'm afraid I'm going to have to interrupt you. We're going to go back live to where that press conference was held. Our political editor has grabbed Danny Krueger, the man of the moment. Let's listen in.
Personally, I'm feeling pretty conflicted. I've left behind a lot of very good friends. Locally in my association, some wonderful people who've supported me as a Conservative candidate and an activist. And then nationally, I've got very good friends. I respect and admire Kevin Badenoch personally. I love our Chief Whip, my former Chief Whip. And I've got very many good friends in Parliament who will be very dismayed by what I've done. So on a personal level, it's really difficult. But I think it's the right thing to do because I don't think the Conservative Party can deliver conservatism. I don't think they can deliver for the public.
It's a big leap you're taking. Is there any Reform UK organisation locally?
I think there is. They've just won a whole bunch of council seats from the Conservatives, and I look forward to meeting them. But I mean, it's a very, very tough challenge we've got to organise sufficiently to take on the next set of local elections and then get ready for the big one, general election, in a couple of years' time.
You said in July that Reform government would spend money like a drunken sailor. Do you still agree with that sentiment?
What my concern was that they seem to want to spend more, or at least not reduce the welfare bill. But we've heard from Nigel Farage at his party conference a couple of weeks ago that they recognise that the welfare bill is unsustainable and they are committed to bringing about reductions in order to achieve some kind of fiscal continence, which is what is so vital. So I'm glad to say no longer drunken sailors.
Is the ultimate goal here to bring the two parties together? Would you like to see a merger between the Tory party and Reform at some point in the future?
Listen, I think that's got to wait until we're closer to the election and we see how the land lies. I think the primary reality, though, in a first-past-the-post system is there's only really room for one major challenger to the Labour Party. And I think that all true Conservatives should recognise that's got to be Reform. So painful as it is, because we all love the old institution of the Tory party, I just think it's got to make way now, and Conservatives should move into the vehicle that's most likely to deliver the sort of change we want.
You said they'll wait before the election. That implies there could be talks about a merger between the Tories and Reform before the election, almost echoing what happened in Canada.
As I say, it's not for me to anticipate that. I've no idea what kind of conversations might have been happening. But what we hear very clearly from Nigel Farage is he's not actually interested in doing deals. He wants to win former Conservative support to Reform, and I think that's the right strategy, painful as that is for my former Conservative colleagues.
Well, your former colleague, Kevin Badenoch, she says this party is a left-wing party, is it?
As I say, I think she's probably putting too much into the commitment that Nigel made to maintain the two-child, or to scrap the two-child benefit cap. I think he's corrected the record quite clearly on that. There's no chance that the Reform Party will be advocating higher spending, let alone higher taxes and higher borrowing. We've absolutely got to get spending under control and bring down the welfare bill. So, no, I'm afraid it's not the case that Reform is a left-wing party. I think we're slightly scratching at straws for that.
And no by-election planned, even despite the people in Wiltshire voted for a Tory last time, not Reform UK MP.
Well, I'm going to continue to do the exact job that I was elected to do and that I've done since the last election, which is to oppose the Labour government, to stand up for Conservative principles, to support and represent my constituents as best I can as a local MP. So nothing is actually changing on the ground for me. People knew what they were getting when they voted for me, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
And more to come? More colleagues of yours to come across?
No idea. Haven't been involved in any other conversations, and that's for Nigel.
But you've been talking for a year or so?
Well, I've been in conversation with Reform colleagues, I mean, particularly Lee Anderson, who was a Conservative colleague, since he went across. We all meet in Parliament. But no, actually, this was quite a recent conversation that started between me and Nigel, when I've come to recognise in quite a recent period that there just isn't any hope for the Conservatives.
The first sitting Tory MP to jump ship. What do you say to critics who say you're a rat leaving a sinking ship?
Well, listen, if I was simply concerned with my own safety, I'd be staying in East Wiltshire, which is one of the safest Conservative seats there is. I mean, it's not a target for Reform. So, actually, I'm taking quite a bold personal gamble here. I'm not expecting to have an easy ride of it, but I just think it's the right thing to do.
Danny Krueger, thank you. Danny Krueger there with his defence of why he's jumping ship to Reform UK.
All right, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Fascinating, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So the Tories, I think, are in real trouble. I think this is the beginning of them all jumping off board, I think.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, Danny Krueger was a linchpin in what I like to call the Jenrick sphere of various MPs. Danny Krueger, Katie Lamb, Robert Jenrick, all sort of ideological sort of soulmates, fellow travellers within a certain strain of Conservative Party thought. I suppose the question is, if Krueger goes, does that sort of give permission for other people? We will be looking at people like Katie Lamb, bright upcoming Conservative MP, Could she go across? Could other people associated with this strain of thought think, hang on, if Krueger's made this decision, maybe I can too?
I think Robert Jenrick will be next, but 27 minutes after 12 o'clock...
Oh, I should say... We'll be speaking to Robert Jenrick in about an hour and a half's time, or maybe 2 hours' time.
Well, we will be speaking
towards the end of the programme. We'll be speaking to Robert Jenrick, so we can put some of those questions, and indeed any of your questions, to him too.
All right. Well, GBNews sources have confirmed the first deportations of Channel migrants back to France are set to take place this week.
Well, it's part of the government's partial returns deal with France. The Home Office security staff are expected to escort asylum seekers on commercial flights.
Well, joining us now in the studio, GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Well, this could be music to our ears, as the scheme isn't really brilliant, but it is something. How likely is it that they will actually be deported?
I think it's quite likely that we'll see some return to France during the course of the week, but it's not going to be a significant number, a few dozen at best. And there may be some legal challenges. I think definitely there will be legal challenges, whether they have merit or not at the end of the day, because, of course, they're being returned to a safe country, the last safe country they were in before they crossed the Channel to get to the UK. So it might be difficult to fight a successful case against their return to France, but nonetheless, just mounting that case could delay it by a day or two.
They shouldn't be allowed, though, should they? If you're being deported back to France, which is a safe country, they should therefore have no right to make legal challenges, which we, the taxpayers, end up paying for.
Well, I think it's a reasonable argument to make, and the lawyers, obviously, for those asylum seekers will say that they are entitled to representation under the law to the best of their ability. And we know their ability these days is actually very good at putting forward arguments to try and win them a reprieve.
What happened to that idea that was put forward by some in and around the government, that you could deport first, appeal later, that in some instances people would be able to be deported first and then any legal challenge that they might want to bring could be brought from a third country?
I think that's a really good point, and I think it's a case in point of ministers actually giving into the legal advice probably that they're getting from within the Home Office and other government departments, because I think many people would actually think that is a very sensible approach. Deport them. If they want to challenge, they can challenge from that third country. If they're successful, then clearly they may have to be allowed back in. But yes, they've decided not to do that. And I think the thing really that's worth getting across in this whole debate about this partial returns deal is that actually the number is going to be very modest for quite some time, if not all of the time, because there's no guarantee, despite what the British government says about expanding it to allow greater numbers, that the French will be up for this. So in the interim, it's going to be 50, maybe 100 a week, when we know, of course, on a good week, thousands can arrive. In fact, even though we've had really bad weather in the Channel in recent weeks, 5,500 plus have arrived across the Channel since this returns deal with France was operationalised just 6 weeks ago.
And only 100 are going to go back a week at the top.
At best.
But Mark, we mentioned they'll be on commercial flights, not chartered flights. If I were to catch a plane from London to Charles de Gaulle, might it be half full of illegal migrants?
It won't be half full of illegal migrants, because we think there's probably only going to be about 10 maybe on each of these flights. There's supposed to be a schedule of 4 flights this week. That you do the maths, it's 40, maybe 50 at most, if it's a bit more than 10, with a corresponding sort of security guard around each migrant. But they're going to go for the most compliant of migrants in the first instance, because they want this to go without a hitch. They want to be able to say, look, we have enacted this returns deal that we've spoken about for so long.
It's laughable. Well, listen, Mark, you'll be returning, giving us more information on that as and when, and we'll maybe find out what day they're actually going to go, all 5 of them, or however many they manage to get across. Thank you very much, Mark White.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more to come on today's programme.
Including Charlie Kirk, suspected killer, not cooperating with investigators. Utah's government has confirmed.
And as punk duo Bob Vylan see a show cancelled and the US visa withdrawn after controversial onstage remarks about that assassination, we'll have all of that and much more after your latest news headlines.
The Member of Parliament for East Wiltshire has defected to Reform UK from the Conservatives. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage made the announcement during a press conference this morning where he revealed Mr Krueger as the party's new head of preparing for government. The Prime Minister is facing further pressure from Labour MPs after he was forced to sack the US ambassador last week. Sir Keir Starmer is reportedly pinning his hopes on President Trump's state visit to regain the initiative and stave off a backbench revolt. Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghardt, asks further questions on Lord Mandelson.
Let's deal with this today. The Prime Minister has it in his power to tell us what he knew when. Somebody is going to have to take responsibility for this, and at the moment, nobody is taking responsibility.
Elsewhere, GBNews sources have confirmed that deportation flights for Channel migrants entering the UK illegally will leave this week under Sir Keir Starmer's partial returns deal with France. The prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann has refused to speak to British police. The Metropolitan Police sent a so-called international letter of request to 49-year-old Christian Bruckner, who is due to be released from prison in Germany for a separate offence this week. And the UK and the US have agreed a deal to boost the building of nuclear plants in both countries, with the deal amounting to $100 billion in commercial agreements. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Thank you, Casey. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, Sir Keir Starmer accused of double standards, praising police injured at Tommy Robinson's rally, but still silent on that Notting Hill carnival violence.
All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. We hold on to strong winds today. There is a Met Office wind warning in force across England and Wales. Heavy showers with the best of any sunshine across the south. So like I said, there is a wind warning in force. Gusts of up to 60 to 70 miles per hour is possible. We'll hold on to frequent showers across Northern Ireland, Northern England, into Wales as well, merging to give longer spells of rain. Likewise for parts of Scotland, but it's the south of England that holds on to some sunny spells, but blustery showers rattling their way through. Highs here of 18 to 19 degrees, but feeling rather cool in any heavy downpours and with the strong winds. So through Monday evening, there'll be some late evening sunny spells across the northern half of Scotland, but still holding on to some showers here. Likewise, it's a similar story elsewhere. Showers, especially across Northern Ireland and northern parts of England. Some of these could be heavy with the odd rumble of thunder as well. And we still hold on to those strong winds, gusts of 45 to 55 miles per hour, but they'll generally start easing as we go through Monday night as the area of low pressure tracks its way eastwards. The focus for the showers overnight into Tuesday then across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England and sinking their way southwards. Either side of that holding on to clear skies, but otherwise temperatures generally ranging from 9 to 13 degrees to start Tuesday. So Tuesday promises a brighter start for many of us, especially across Scotland and southern parts of England. We still hold on to a few showers, especially across northern parts of England, perhaps even a few bubbling up across parts of Wales, but otherwise lighter winds, a bit more of a calmer day out there before sunshine turns hazy from the west. Highs up to 18 or 19 degrees. Bye-bye.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M6 northbound, there's been an accident between junctions 4A and 5 causing delays. In Solihull, the M6 northbound between junctions 4 and 6 faces a collision, closing 2 lanes, adding 30 minutes to traffic. In Kirklees, the M62 westbound between junctions 24 and 22 has a collision. Expect 40-minute delays due to 1 closed lane. The A14 westbound in Northamptonshire between junction 13 Thrapston and junction 10 Burton Latimer is completely closed due to an incident. And on the trains, disruptions continue at Oxford, affecting Chiltern Railways and Cross Country. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 37 minutes past midday. Now, the Prime Minister is being accused of creating double standards after he condemned attacks on police officers during Saturday's Unite the Kingdom rally, but that's after he failed to condemn violence at Notting Hill Carnival last month.
Yes, the Metropolitan Police have estimated up to 150,000 people attended the rally in central London.
Well, the Prime Minister said, people have a right to peaceful protest. It's the core to our country's values. But we will not stand for assaults on police officers doing their job or for people being intimidated on our streets because of their background or the colour of their skin.
Well, more than 500 people were arrested at this year's Notting Hill Carnival, and that figure included 55 arrests for assaults on police officers. But the Prime Minister did not speak out about the violence at that event.
Well, we're joined by former Scotland Yard detective, Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Mike, thanks for being with us. I mean, is this a double standard from the Prime Minister?
Of course it is. He's called two-tier care for obvious reasons, isn't he? And we just don't hear the same condemnation of other things. And he is part of the establishment. And one of the best articles I've read on this march is by Trevor Phillips, you know, the renowned journalist. And he's described the establishment as completely out of touch. And you have a bizarre set of ironies here. You have the anti-racism group led by Diane Abbott, the only MP to be suspended twice for racism. You have this allegedly far-right rally closed by a black gospel group singing Jerusalem, a hymn. And then you have people condemning football thugs as being involved at the same time that Keir Starmer's at an Arsenal football match. So it's a whole series of things, but the people, I think, are seeing through this. If we look at the left-wing media, you know, the BLM march where we had people, officers dragged off police horses and things like that, was reported as not very, as usually peaceful. At the Notting Hill Carnival, and the BBC told us that the 2 stabbings were not very serious. So I think people are just getting to see through this nonsense now.
Now, isn't there a bit of a problem, though? And I do agree with what you're saying there. I don't understand why so-called kind of diverse kind of festivals seem to go unchallenged, yet as soon as you wave a British flag, suddenly you're a racist, which I think is a bit absurd. But, Mike, there was an element of this, that the policing wasn't that great, because there were reports that actually some of the Unite the Kingdom were actually cattled into an area that was directly beside the Stand Up to Racism people, and then they were trapped in that area. And the reason being that a lot of the police who were drafted there had come from forces all across the country and didn't really know the area that well.
This could be a real issue. And, you know, there's officers on duty who do a brave job all the time, but are often very, very badly led. And one thing I noticed, though, was the deployment of people in officers in riot gear. And that just sends a message that, that there's trouble coming, and it almost causes trouble in itself. One of the greatest commissioners of the Metropolitan Police was Sir Robert Mark, and he said the police in Britain should win by appearing to lose. We don't see, and that's a great way of British police, and I go with that. I've been on duty at different riots and stuff, but what the police, what they wear on their head often says the attitude of the senior officers in charge of this. We didn't see any officers deployed with riot helmets at the Notting Hill Carnival, where there was far more likelihood of being attacks on police, and it just sends the wrong message, because I know people on that march who were solicitors, former police officers, retired soldiers.
Oh, we've just lost sound. I don't know. All right, listen, we've just lost your sound, but it's really good to talk to you. Thank you for your thoughts. That's former Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville.
Now, police say the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk is refusing to cooperate with detectives.
This comes as the controversial punk duo Bob Vylan, of course, outrage after making comments on stage about Charlie Kirk's death. They've since had a concert cancelled in reaction.
And they've had their US visa revoked. But let's discuss it all with Peter Blexley. Delighted to be joined by our former Scotland Yard detective, Peter. Peter, thanks for joining us. This is a strange story in a way, given that the front man of the Bob Vylan duo took to Twitter last night to claim that he wasn't celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk.
Well, should we play you the clip, Peter, just so you can see it? I don't know whether you have. Oh, we haven't
Please
got it.
do.
Oh, we haven't got it.
Yeah, I find Mr. Vylan contradicts himself continually, virtually each and every time he opens his mouth. I think the man's not particularly bright. He's clearly not very aware of what is within the bounds of good taste, let alone legality. And he's forever putting his foot in it, so to speak. I notice that the concert has already been cancelled, one that's due to take place in Europe later this month. And, of course, he's had concerts cancelled in America, his visa revoked and the such like. In short, he's an insidious man. I would never buy a ticket to go and see him, and I would urge anybody else to do exactly the same.
Peter, if you, and just coming to the shooting of Charlie Kirk, which was awful, looking at it, there was one person on the roof. Do you think, looking at that, in my view, this could have been avoided in terms of, policing the roofs and things like that? We saw a similar assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Just what are your thoughts on it?
I think all people involved in providing close protection to prominent people, whether they be politicians or speakers or the such like, need to be very aware of this dangerous trend at the moment, which is of the rooftop shooter. The kind of close protection that is afforded to royalty in the UK and presidents in the US, for example, is eye-wateringly expensive and beyond the purse of most people, including prominent speakers like Charlie Kirk. It takes a huge amount of people, huge amount of vehicles, expertise, planning, accommodation, and the costs are simply enormous. I make no criticism of those who are trying to protect Mr. Kirk. That would be a bit churlish. What I would suggest, though, is that the security perhaps needed to be greater in terms of numbers. And sadly,
or it needn't require a huge amount of expense. I mean, I know he does travel with security, but obviously if you have close security, I mean, what could they have done? Well, there was a single shot fired from out of the blue. I mean, it's impossible to... What could happen, though?
On the roof.
Well, what could have happened and what might start to happen is sweeping these areas with drones. I mean, if close protection officers carry a little video drone with them, they can do a very quick, before an event starts, looking across the top of roofs. I wonder if we're going to start to see more instances of that and people sort of applying some more blue sky thinking to what, as you described, Peter, is a serious trend.
They could, of course, employ drone technology, and I think that's an eminently sensible thing to do. It will be very interesting to see when President Trump comes to the UK, the sort of security that will be afforded to him. You will see rooftop snipers, but they will be police officers, I sincerely hope. So these kind of things are within the experience and the bounds and the capabilities of security teams. You just have to have a large enough team, sufficiently trained and sufficiently resourced. And even then, there is actually no such thing as perfect security.
All right, Peter Blexley, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. He's a former Scotland Yard detective.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more to come.
Including Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick, who says every child should be taught about the Battle of Britain after a poll found that most young people don't know what the hell it is. He'll join us live.
But first, here's a forecast of some of those top European holiday destinations, a little bit warmer than back in Blighty.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello, well, there's plenty of sunshine across Europe. There are a few showers around, but otherwise it's feeling very warm out there, a bit breezy across parts of Madeira and the Canary Islands, but across much of Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, lengthy sunny skies, and across Greece as well, not doing too bad. There are just a few showers towards the north of that, but otherwise a lot of sunshine on offer, temperatures up to 34 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10-1. Now, today marks the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Britain, with events up and down the country to honour this significant event.
Now, in 1940, the Luftwaffe launched its largest and most concentrated attack against London, which was repelled by the RAF and marked the turning point in the war.
Well, we're joined now by our national reporter, Jack Carson. Jack, thanks for being with us. This is a really significant event, but sadly, too many young people don't know about it.
Well, you were exactly right. 2/3 of people under 40, it said don't actually know really what the Battle of Britain is. And I thought that's really concerning, given there's obviously a lot at the moment on the educational curriculum around World War II, but there's almost a generation of people that don't really know what it is, don't know its significance, its importance with all of that. Now, we're at Hangar 42 at the Spitfire Visitor Centre here in Blackpool. Blackpool playing such a key role in the Battle of Britain, where squadrons were based, trained, and we're joined now in the operations room room by one of the volunteers here. Just tell us, you know, what this room would have been used for. 85 years ago, as that Battle of Britain, you know, commences, the war starts to turn in our favour. How important was a room like this?
Okay, this room represents a sector plotting map. It was designed by somebody called Hugh Dowding, who designed an integrated air defence system. And the idea was that it would enable us to track enemy aircraft coming in and enable us to use our assets, our fighters, to the best advantage. Now, the way it did it was there was, on the coast, we had radar stations. So they were picked up by the radar stations, enemy radars, and then once they passed over the coast, in those days, radar could on up forward, so they were lost to the radar once they passed over the coast. So then stepped in the Royal Observer Corps. Now these were volunteers, 25,000 of them. And what they would do is they would look for the aircraft, find the aircraft, get a rough count of them, get the height, and report that back. Now the girl in the plotting stations here would set up counters like this. This would be hostile raid number 42 for that day. It would be 25 plus aircraft, and they would be flying at 13,000 feet. And that would be put on the plotting table.
Which I can, because this is the thing, I've always wanted to hold one of these props. These are what they would have used to kind of push these across these huge plotting table, and we've got 256. Now that's the squadron number.
In a minute, yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So as the Royal Observer Corps were observing the aircraft and plotting them, that would be getting moved up, showing the exact position of the enemy aircraft. Yeah. Now, at one point, the officers in charge here would then decide which squadron was going to go up to intercept. Now, once they did that, they made a decision. In this case, it would be 256 Squadron. They were going to send up 12 friendlies, and they were going to 20,000 feet.
And I can actually do the pushing.
Can do that, yeah.
There we go. I've always wanted to do the pushing over to where those aircraft were. And of course, that's, I guess, you know, how they would then then intercept them, and those great battles,
yes,
that we see over the skies take place. That's all we're going to have time for at the moment. But as you were saying, Tom, 2/3 almost of people under 40 not knowing really what the Battle of Britain is. So hopefully you've learned a little bit more there around exactly how these operations took place. And here in Hangar 42 in Blackpool, with the Hurricanes and Spitfires, it's been fantastic here to learn more about the Battle of Britain.
All right, thank you very much, Jack Carson. Good afternoon, Britain. Lots more coming up on today's show. Do not go anywhere. We'll be debating whether frontline Met police officers should carry guns.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A boisterous, blusterous day out there. Very gusty conditions, especially over England and Wales. Some pretty heavy downpours around as well. And here's the reason why. Low pressure sitting across us. Look at the number of isobars, particularly packed in across England and Wales. That's where the strongest gusts are. Met Office yellow warning in place. Gusts of 50, maybe 55 miles an hour. Inlands, higher than that along coast. That could cause some disruption. A few showers whizzing through on the winds to the south. More persistent rain over parts of southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales. Very wet day for some. Staying pretty wet in northern Scotland as well. The wind's not as strong here. Everywhere feeling cooler than those temperatures would suggest. Generally, we're getting into the high teens. Now, the winds remain lively into this evening's rush hour, so again, could cause some disruption. Not great for high-sided vehicles in particular, but we'll see those showers feeding in over northern England and Northern Ireland well into the evening as well. So again, a lot of spray and surface water around on the roads, and some more persistent and heavy rain, the brighter colours there over parts of northern Scotland. As we go through the night, things will calm down a little bit. The winds will be easing through this evening across England and Wales in particular, but it stays pretty breezy, stays fairly cloudy with outbreaks of rain from Northern Ireland, northwest England, parts of southern Scotland and North Wales. Further south, the odd shower, but many places becoming dry here. Turns a lot drier over northern Scotland too. Temperature-wise, mostly holding up in double digits, certainly in towns and cities. On to Tuesday, and overall a drier, brighter, calmer day, but still far from completely dry. A feed of cloud and some outbreaks of rain coming into northwest England, southwest Scotland, showers in northern parts of Northern Ireland and northern Scotland, but certainly further south the winds will be lighter and there won't be as many showers around. A drier, brighter day, but there is more wet and windy weather waiting behind me for Tuesday night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Liz Mitchell, MBE, gracing us with her presence on the soap this morning. Liz, so good to have you with us.
I am happy to be here.
You have the most incredible voice, the voice of a generation. The whole disco era is down to you. What do you think has made your songs so timeless? I mean, everybody knows them, don't they?
Everybody knows them.
Everybody.
One thing I'm very grateful for is the temper of our music, because it seems to be very friendly, warming, and even our slow songs. I was playing one just the other day for my 2-year-old grandson, and he said, more. I was so happy.
I'm with him on that. There's a real sense with your music, though, that it is uplifting.
Yes.
And you feel happy listening to it. I mean, despite whatever it is you're singing about, almost, it's just there's a joy to it.
Yes, and that is really a gift, I think, that most artists would want to have, is that when they make their music that is lasting and that is bringing happiness to people. Because for me, that's the whole point of singing. You know, you should be able to make the people you're entertaining feel happy, hear something good, forget the pain for a moment and just want to dance and just feel good.
And Boney M music is all over TikTok, isn't it? It's being remixed all the time. How do you feel watching your music being reinvented like that?
It is really wonderful. This has been going on since the 90s, even before the 90s, people were remixing our songs. So it's the uniqueness of the vocals, because that's what is given to them, just the plain vocals, and then they put new music on it, and it still sounds like Boney M.
The People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Monday, the 15th of September. I'm Nana Acquia.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
Now, Conservative Shadow Minister Danny Krueger defects from Reform to Reform, claiming the Conservative Party is finished.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left.
A huge blow to Kevin Badenoch as an up-and-coming Tory MP, Danny Krueger, becomes the first sitting Conservative to jump ship to Reform UK. Who will follow him?
Yes, the Peter Mandelson scandal just won't go away. So Keir Starmer under growing pressure from his own MPs now over the sacking of his US ambassador.
Yes, just a year after winning a landslide majority, Keir Starmer's premiership is already on the rocks. Could the Mandelson saga end up being the straw that broke the camel's back? Find out more with me very soon.
And for the first time, migrants will be sent back over this one-in, one-out partial returns deal the government is briefing. But how effective will it be?
Well, if these flights ever get off the ground, we're only expecting about 50 migrants to be returned to France. And here's the kicker. By the weekend, another 50 chosen by France will be coming in their place.
Now, should police in London be routinely armed with handguns to protect themselves? A Scotland Yard review said yes, but chiefs rejected the idea. We'll be debating that shortly.
Britain could be seeing a lot more of Prince Harry after he says his focus for the year ahead will be on his father, King Charles.
Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few.
The United Kingdom marks the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Britain today, as a new poll reveals 2 in 3 under 40s don't know what that is.
Well, here at the Battle of Britain Memorial, it's all about keeping that legacy alive. There was a service of remembrance here earlier on today with a 2-minute silence. I'll have more later on.
Yes, so big news. I keep wanting to call him Freddy Krueger, but it's not. It's Danny Krueger. You know Freddy Krueger. You didn't know. But
you had to remind me.
Get the funny face and the fingers. But no, Danny Krueger, he's a sitting Conservative MP. He has defected to Reform UK, which brings them back up to 5 MPs again.
Yeah, they've oscillated since since the general election. They were on 4 on the night of the general election. Then the next morning, James McMurdoch won his seat, so they were up to 5. And then Rupert Lowe left, so they were down to 4. But then Sarah Pochin won the by-election, so they were up to 5. But then James McMurdoch got suspended, so then they were back down to 4. But now Danny Kruger's defected, so they're up to 5. It seems like they just keep oscillating between 4 and 5 and 4 and 5.
Maybe they'll get 6 soon. Maybe that'll happen.
Well, then someone else will have to leave. It's just the way it goes.
But maybe that 6th person could be Robert Jenrick, who is going to be here very shortly. We'll be talking to him.
But of course, they are leading in the polls. One of the reasons why Reform is leading in the polls is the migration issue. Mark White is, of course, sitting around the desk with us. The government really seems to sort of understand, perhaps, that migration is one of those fronts where they're just not winning.
They're certainly not winning. The Conservatives are not winning either as far as that's concerned. I mean, I think Danny Krueger is definitely someone who's seen as a credible figure and the first, as you say, serving Conservative MP to cross over to Reform, because Lee Anderson, he did it at the time when he was actually suspended with the party whip removed. And the big issue now, of course, is will more people feel emboldened from the Conservative side, sitting MPs, I mean, to cross over? But if they do, does that then pose a problem for Nigel Farage? I remember speaking to him when we were in the English Channel just a couple of months back, looking at the small boats coming across. And one of the points I put to him was, yeah, it's all well and good that a number of Tory MPs clearly want to move over to Reform, but when do you just become the Tories light, you know? The Tories Mark II, yeah.
For, you know, Tories, really, which is not good at all. But Nigel did call for experienced politicians there.
Yes,
that's kind of what
he did.
So you have to get them from somewhere.
And he absolutely admitted that you know, there was an issue with inviting too many from the Conservative fold over to Reform, but it was that experience that he said that in the interim they need to build up the experience because they've never governed.
Well, absolutely fascinating developments.
They need some Labour MPs to jump ship, don't they?
Well, much more to come on that. Mark White, thanks indeed for joining us. But do get your thoughts in, gbnews.com/your say, as ever. We'll get more on this after your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 5 minutes past 1. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. And that breaking news this afternoon, Danny Krueger, the Member of Parliament for East Wiltshire, has defected to Reform UK from the Conservatives. He becomes the first sitting Conservative MP to defect to the party. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage made the announcement during a press conference this morning, where he revealed Mr Krueger is the party's new head of preparing for government. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch said she won't be blown off course by these sorts of incidents. Danny Krueger said that he began thinking about defecting when Lee Anderson also joined the party.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. But I am not despondent, because conservatism is not over. It's never been needed more, and actually it's never been more vibrant. Because the failure of the Conservative Party has created space for an alternative.
While elsewhere in politics, the Prime Minister is facing further pressure from Labour MPs after he was forced to sack the US ambassador last week. Sir Keir Starmer is reportedly pinning his hopes on President Trump's state visit to regain the initiative and stave off a backbench revolt. Reports over the weekend suggest that the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, is set to launch a leadership bid to oust Sir Keir Starmer as Labour leader. The pressure comes as the Prime Minister sacked former American Ambassador Lord Mandelson over his relationship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghardt, spoke to GB News earlier.
Last week, we were calling on the government to just come clean about what had happened with the whole Mandelson affair so that it didn't overshadow this visit. It's a very important visit by the President of the United States. They haven't done that. It's dragged on into this week, and we're going to be trying again today to get the government to publish all of the Mandelson Epstein files so that everybody can see what the Prime Minister knew, when he knew it, and how this appointment came to be made in the first place.
Also today, GB News sources have confirmed that deportation flights for Channel migrants entering the UK illegally will leave this week. Sources will not, however, confirm reports that the first flight will leave today. Under Sir Keir Starmer's partial returns deal with France, asylum seekers who arrived in the UK last month have been issued with formal removal directions, telling them they'll be deported back to France within 5 days. Those returns are now reportedly imminent. There are also reports that asylum seekers will be escorted by Home Office security staff on commercial Air France flights rather than a chartered aircraft. Also breaking this lunchtime, the UK has summoned the Russian ambassador in London following the country's, quote, unprecedented violation of NATO airspace. The Foreign Office said that incursions into Polish and Romanian airspace were utterly unacceptable. Andrei Kelin has therefore been summoned by the department. A Foreign Office spokesman added that the UK stands united with Poland, Romania, Ukraine and our NATO allies in unreservedly condemning these reckless actions. The family of former world champion Ricky Hatton have paid tribute to the boxer after his death at the age of 46. In a statement released by Greater Manchester Police, his family said he inspired generations, adding that to us he was our son, a loving father, grandfather, brother and true friend to many. Mr Hatton was found dead at his home in Hyde yesterday morning. The death is not being treated as suspicious by police. The prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann has refused to speak with British police. The Metropolitan Police sent a so-called international letter of request to 49-year-old Christian Bruckner, who is due to be released from prison in Germany this week. The German national has never been charged in the McCann case and denies all involvement. He's now rejected the Met's request to speak to him over the disappearance of the 3-year-old in 2007. A man in his 30s has been arrested on suspicion of rape after a Sikh woman reported a, quote, racially motivated attack while on her way to work. The victim, reported to be a British-born Sikh in her 20s, told officers a racist remark was made to her during the incident in Oldbury last Tuesday. The perpetrators allegedly told the woman, "You don't belong in this country, get out," as they sexually assaulted her, the Sikh Federation said. West Midlands Police said the man was detained yesterday evening and remains in custody. And 15-year-old Owen Cooper has made history by becoming the youngest ever male Emmy winner at the awards in Los Angeles overnight. Cooper, the star of Netflix drama Adolescence, won the award for Outstanding Supporting Actor, despite only having his first acting class just 2 years ago. Adolescence took home 6 awards in total, with the writers Jack Thorne and Stephen Graham also receiving gongs at the Emmys. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's get an update from the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3607 and 1.1577 euros. The price of gold is £2,677 and 38 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,283 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 11 minutes past 1. Now, we start with that huge news, of course, that only broke an hour or so ago, maybe two, that Danny Krueger has defected from the Conservative Party to Reform UK. He's a sitting MP. He was a shadow minister. Now he'll head up a department to help prepare reform for government.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. I am honoured to have been asked by Nigel to work with him, with Zia Youssef, with Richard Tice and our other colleagues to help reform prepare for government. This is a team with the vision, the energy and the ideas that we need. Reform UK is a radical force, but not a revolutionary one. Our mission is not just to overthrow the current system. It is to restore the system that we need. Limited government, accountable power, a strong society, a state that works in the interests of the people. Radical restoration. That is the reform the country needs.
Well, we're joined now by GBNews' political editor, Christopher Hope. Christopher, how big news is this for Reform UK, and how bad is this for the Tories?
I think both in a big way, and both those answer that question there. I think a big issue here for the Tory party, just on the terms of those MPs in the House of Commons. They look at Danny Krueger as someone who's part of the future of the Tory party. The fact his future isn't in that Tory party, is in fact in Reform UK, is a big warning. It could be see the dam breaking with other Tories joining the party. He's the first sitting Conservative MP to join Reform UK. Don't forget, when Lee Anderson came across before the election, he was independent MP. He wasn't a Tory MP at all. So a big moment, I think, for the party. Some would say, of course, it's the falling polls which has led to Danny Krueger leaving. And earlier, I asked him that question, whether he was a rat leaving a sinking ship. Here's what he told me. The first sitting Tory MP to jump ship. What do you say to critics who say you're a rat leaving a sinking ship?
Well, listen, if I was simply concerned with my own safety, I'd be staying in East Wiltshire, which is one of the safest Conservative seats there is. I mean, it's not a target for reform. So, actually, I'm taking quite a bold personal gamble here. I'm not expecting to have an easy ride of it, but I just think it's the right thing to do.
That's right. So if in terms of an easy life for Danny Krueger, he would have stayed as the MP for East Wiltshire, trying to muddle his way through with the existing leadership. He didn't put the boot into Kemi Badenoch. He said she's done her best. She's gone, or he said the word invisible for 1 or 2 years as she builds up a policy platform. He wonders whether the guy he backed for leadership, Robert Jenrick, may have done things differently, and the Tories could have been higher in the polls where they are. They're around 17 points in the polls, with Reform on most recently 34 points, are much higher. This guy, though, Danny Krueger, he is significant. He is formerly a speech maker, a speech writer to David Cameron back in 2006. He's a former political secretary in number 10 Downing Street to Boris Johnson. He is formerly, of course, until today, the work and pension spokesman for the Tory party. He even once nearly fought Tony Blair in the Sedgefield seat back in 2005, a former Daily Telegraph journalist. He is a significant, deep thinker, and now, of course, he's a Reform UK MP, heading up a programme for government. Lots of shock in Tory ranks. Steve Baker MP, he's a former Tory MP, he says that Danny is exceptionally talented and experienced at the very heights of government. He says this is huge news, and I think that's how it be felt across the whole Tory party. But for Kemi Badenoch, she's trying to keep everyone calm and say this kind of thing will be expected as her party reshapes herself. Here's what the Tory leader told us about an hour ago.
Danny has made his case very clear that this is not about me. I can't be distracted by that, and I'm not going to get blown off course by these sorts of incidents. I know that this is the sort of thing that is going to happen while a party is changing. I am making sure that people understand what Conservative values are.
Now, Danny Krueger will be facing incoming from the Tories and Labour and probably Lib Dems over coming weeks. He, of course, did say in July last year, or this year, that a reform government would spend money like a drunken sailor. He said then that he's seen a change in policy on welfare reform from Nigel Farage, and he wouldn't say that again now. He also was the author of that Hug a Hoodie speech by David Cameron back in the day. He says that he was trying to be quite a sophisticated argument, which didn't quite cut through. So, but fascinating, we now have 5 Reform UKs in Parliament. The latest is Danny Krueger. Will any more follow?
That is the million-pound question, I suppose. Chris Hope, thanks indeed for joining us live there from the site of that extraordinary press conference.
Right now to the future of the Prime Minister. That's Keir Starmer, who is still under huge pressure over his role in the Peter Mandelson scandal.
Well, many Labour MPs are furious after the Business Secretary, Peter Kyle, admitted that the appointment of Mandelson as the ambassador to the United States was judged to be worth the risk. This despite the government knowing his links to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
And the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, who's seen as a possible replacement for Sir Keir, has got the backing of the Labour MPs who stopped the leadership forcing through major welfare reforms earlier this year.
Well, we're now joined by our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who's been in a briefing with the Prime Minister's official spokesman. Olivia, trying times for the government over this. Who knew what and when?
Well, very trying times, and that is the crux of the question, a question which the Prime Minister's spokesman just now was not really able to answer. Of course, there are big questions about why Peter Mandelson was hired in the first place when it was already known that there were links between him and the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. But the more pertinent question now is the timeline of what happened last week. Essentially, what happened is that on Tuesday, the Foreign Office received this cache of emails between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein. And from that point, on Tuesday evening, the Foreign Office was actively investigating Peter Mandelson. Now, on Wednesday at 7 a.m, Peter Mandelson did an interview with The Sun where he said that more embarrassing emails were going to come to light. He was talking about that cache of emails which the Foreign Office was investigating. Now, bafflingly, 5 hours after that interview, when the Foreign Office was actively investigating the US ambassador, Keir Starmer stood up in the House of Commons and vigorously defended Peter Mandelson. He gave him his full support. Then, on Wednesday evening, the Prime Minister looked at that cache of emails, and on Thursday, he sacked the US ambassador. Now, the big question is, if the Foreign Office was actively investigating the US ambassador on Tuesday, why did the Prime Minister stand up and vigorously defend him on Wednesday? Reading between the lines of what the PM spokesman was saying just now, it sounds as though perhaps the Prime Minister wasn't handed the file, maybe, or that he didn't think it was important enough to look over. Either way, it is not looking good for the Prime Minister. Either the Downing Street communications channels are so broken that the Prime Minister failed to understand the importance of this cache of emails, or he just didn't have the political nous to realise that this was a really important issue which he needed to get to grips with. That is the crux of the question, and we still don't really have answers from the Prime Minister's office. Then, of course, we get on to, is the Prime Minister really in danger? At the moment, it's mostly quiet mutterings among Labour MPs. Only a couple have actively spoken out in public against the Prime Minister. And then there's the question of who would replace him if he was deposed. One option that's being talked about is Andy Burnham. He is very popular with the rank and file of the Labour Party, but there are a few practical hurdles to Andy Burnham becoming Labour leader, not least of which he is currently Mayor of Manchester and doesn't have a parliamentary seat. The mechanism to get him from Mayor of Manchester to leader of the Labour Party would mean he would have to fight in a by-election to become a Labour Party MP. And at the moment, the sad truth for Labour is that there isn't a single by-election in the country which Labour would be guaranteed to win. What an extraordinary situation, given that Keir Starmer won a historic landslide just over a year ago.
Absolutely stunning. Well, Olivia Utley, thanks indeed for joining us now live from Downing Street.
Right, we're joined now by Labour writer and commentator Paul Richards. Paul, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? Louise Haigh, Tulip Sadipa had to write the list, Mike Ainsby, Rashana Ali, Angela Rayner, now Peter Mandelson. Is Sir Keir Starmer really up for the job? Is he fit for the job? His judgment seems to be absolutely terrible.
I thought Olivia's analysis there was spot on, really, that all of those that are sort of hoping for the king over the water to come sailing back into Westminster in the shape of Andy Burnham have to recognise that he's not a Labour Member of Parliament. And therefore he can't stand to be the leader, which means we have to circle the wagons around Keir Starmer, because he's the guy that got us over the line in the general election.
Hang on, Paul, just for a second. That logic is self-defeating. We can't possibly have Andy Burnham as a leader because Keir Starmer is so unpopular that Andy Burnham wouldn't be able to win a seat in Westminster because no longer are any Labour seats safe. I mean, isn't that fairly self-defeating as an argument?
No, I'm just merely pointing out the constitutional barrier to Andy Burnham becoming the leader of the Labour Party. And don't forget, there isn't actually a vacancy. And the nature of the Parliamentary Labour Party is that he has a very strong level of support within the block of MPs. Look at the MPs who've nominated Phillipson in the deputy leadership. That gives you a sense of the scale of his Praetorian Guard. And he has a lot of goodwill in the broader party too. I'm old enough to remember when Mrs Thatcher hit the rocks after about a year in her premiership, and people were saying, oh, let's get rid of her. And she went on for another 7 or 8 years, you know. So politicians do have these rocky periods. No. I'm not going to put a gloss on it. I'm not saying it's been a really great couple of weeks. I mean, I've been on GB News week after week, you know, with the latest resignation and all the scandals and all the rest of it. But the bigger picture is this is a government with a huge majority, a Prime Minister solid in his place, getting on with the day job of trying to improve the country.
No, come on. Look, the judgment calls. He took on Louise Haigh, having known that there was something. Apparently, she'd told him all about the mobile phone incident. Then Tulip Sadiq, who was quite clear had some dodgy links, her aunt, obviously. Then Mike Ainsbury, all these people that he has had close connections with. Angela Rayner. You know, he has made these judgment calls with these people. And finally, Peter Mandelson, which was the most absurd appointment, even in my view. And I didn't even know that much about him. He's been fired from how many jobs, and you know. So surely it is time now to look at Keir Starmer as the leader of the party and perhaps get rid of him.
I mean, I don't think he can be held to account for Mike Ainsbury going and lamping a constituent late at night. I mean, that's unfortunately something you couldn't necessarily predict. I mean, on the others, when the evidence has come to light that he has seen somebody is not fit for office, actually what he does is to weigh up the evidence and to get rid of them pretty sharpish. And in the case of Peter Mandelson, when the rather horrific sort of 10-page letter came out in public, the ambassador was gone.
But hang on. That letter came out at the weekend. He defended him on the Wednesday.
He defended him on Wednesday, and he should have had this letter. So he then defended him and said he had every confidence in him, like he had with Angela Rayner, and he was gone on Thursday.
But you guys, you know full well you can't go into Prime Minister's questions and offer any kind of slither of doubt in that environment, because then that becomes the story. You can't sack people live.
You could have sacked him on Monday.
I mean, well, with hindsight, maybe he should have gone sooner. But I think new information, new evidence came to light. And the critique you can make of Keir Starmer is that as a lawyer, he does like to look at the evidence. He does like to weigh up the case before shooting from the hip. Now, that may be a disadvantage in politics, but certainly in life, it's not a bad trait to have, and he is fair-minded too, and he wants to see both sides of the story, you know. And that's in the modern age, maybe that's too slow. But when he saw the evidence about Peter and others, they're gone. They're not there now. They've gone.
Yeah, well, there's too many of them gone in such a short space of time, Paul. Let's be honest. Paul Richards, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. He's a Labour writer and commentator.
Well, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now. Your chance to be our biggest winner to date, a package worth over 104 grand. So it's a brand new motorhome and £30,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how to win.
It's our biggest, greatest Great British Giveaway to date. Your chance to win a prize package worth over £104,000. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primero motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas, sky view roof lights, and has all the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure any adventures in your motorhome are taken in style.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Now, a debate has been ignited this morning after it revealed a Metropolitan Police review recommended that officers in London are armed and with handguns. That's to protect them from the scourge of knife crime.
Well, at the moment, guns can only be used by highly trained officers in specialist units. So is it time to follow the advice of this secret report and arm all police officers?
Well, joining us to debate this, Executive Director at the Henry Jackson Society, Alan Mendoza, and founder of Fair Cop, Harry Miller. All right, Harry Miller, I'm going to start with you. Is it wise to arm them, just handguns, not machine guns or anything like that where they can fire lots of rounds, but just a gun, seeing as the criminals are getting more and more dangerous?
No, I don't think it is. I think the main problem is that it fundamentally changes the relationship that the state has and the public has with the police. In Britain, members of the public do not routinely carry guns. And if you have the position, which we've had since Sir Robert Peel, that the police are members of the public, then the police cannot routinely carry guns. It's as simple as that. I don't want to go down the route of Europe, where the police are much more closely aligned with the state, and I certainly don't want to go down the route of the USA. And of course, in the USA, there is a Second Amendment right for the members of the public to carry guns. So of course, the police carry guns there. What we do need is more officers with guns. What we need is more officers who are trained to use tasers. What we need is stronger and harsher sentences for people who assault police officers. The answer is not to routinely arm police officers with guns.
OK, let's throw that over to Alan Mendoza.
Well, I think unfortunately times have changed. I admire the philosophy that we just heard. We all aspire to that being the philosophy that the police should follow. But this is not Dixon of Dock Green anymore. Britain has become a much more violent society owing to repeated failings on the law and order front. And the reality is that police officers are put into danger every day against knife-wielding criminals who think nothing of attacking them. And I think we have to address the reality that in today's world, unfortunately, we can't go back to that community policing in the sense of the 1950s. It doesn't exist in the same way because the threat is different. And as a result, we have to make sure there is a deterrence value that the police always have that is one up over the criminal. And currently, the police are frequently one down, and that is not helping anyone with confidence in law and order, nor the police morale.
What about the argument that if you arm the police, then you invite more guns? So that if you arm the police, then the criminals will carry guns. I mean, isn't that how it seems to go, Harry?
Yeah, that's definitely how it goes. I would say that if you're a police officer in the United States, you're much more likely to be shot and killed in the line of duty than you are in this country. If you look back at the history of our policing, there is a very small number of police officers who have been killed in the line of duty. And in some of those cases, many of those cases, in fact, having a gun would not have prevented the death. It's as simple as that, really. But more importantly, we cannot simply alter the relationship that we have between the members of the public and the police. To do so is to fundamentally change our policing service into something which it currently is not. So let's just police more protection. Give some police officers more guns, but not fundamentally everybody.
We are running short on time. Let's give a final word to Alan Mendoza.
Well, look, it's changed already. The reality is that we know what's happening with people's perception of the police and how they operate. It's changed already. We should at least give the police the ability to defend themselves against criminals and to make sure that they retain the ultimate deterrent. We are an island at the end of the day. That does restrict the availability of guns to begin with. It's not the same as a continent where we are awash with them. And of course, let's not forget, we do have one part of the UK, Northern Ireland, where police do carry guns. And that doesn't actually, in the contemporary age, mean that people think of them any differently to the police in the rest of the UK. So I think, you know, it is time for a change in thinking. We've got to protect people in this country and, of course, also help the police do their job.
All right, Alan Mendoza and also Harriet Miller, thank you very much. I think I'd be concerned with the fact that the accuracy of the shots and the people who are police officers as well, especially the Metropolitan Police, because some of them have a pretty bad record. I don't fancy it.
And yet you see sometimes these police officers who have literally nothing on them to defend themselves, not even a taser. Well, and then they're hit and they're whacked with knives or machetes or whatever it is. They need something more to help.
Yeah, but the gun, I mean, remember, you fire a bullet, if it misses its target, it could hit something else, and that could be you.
Well, we should say that the Met Police has issued a statement. A spokesperson has said that the Met follows national guidance from the College of Policing, which does not support arming all frontline officers. All officers are, however, equipped with batons, parva spray, with thousands also trained to use a taser.
Yeah, and the Met specialist firearms officers consist of thousands of experienced officers. These officers play a vital role in keeping London safe, and where there is necessity, will be deployed to support their unarmed colleagues.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's lots more to come. Do not move a muscle. We're going to be joined by the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick. What does he have to make of Danny Krueger's defection to reform?
But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 1:35. Danny Krueger, the Member of Parliament for East Wiltshire, has defected to Reform UK from the Conservatives. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage made the announcement during a press conference this morning, where he revealed Mr Krueger as the party's new head of preparing for government.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left.
Elsewhere, the Prime Minister is facing further pressure from Labour MPs after he was forced to sack the US ambassador last week. Sir Keir Starmer is reportedly pinning his hopes on President Trump's state visit to regain the initiative and stave off a backbench revolt. Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghardt, asked further questions on Lord Mandelson.
Let's deal with this today. The Prime Minister has it in his power to tell us what he knew when. Somebody is going to have to take responsibility for this, and at the moment, nobody is taking responsibility.
GB News sources have confirmed that deportation flights for Channel migrants entering the UK illegally will leave this week under Sir Keir Starmer's partial returns deal with France. The prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann has refused to speak to British police. The Metropolitan Police sent a so-called international letter of request to 49-year-old Christian Bruckner, who is due to be released from prison in Germany for a separate offence this week. And the UK has summoned the Russian ambassador in London following the country's unprecedented violation of NATO airspace. The Foreign Office said the incursions into Polish and Romanian airspace were utterly unacceptable. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Well, thanks very much. There's lots more coming up on today's programme. It looks like we'll be seeing a lot more of Prince Harry. Well, we'll have all the details on this next.
Stay tuned with us. Lots more here to come on Britain's news channel. We are GB News.
Good morning, welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. We hold on to strong winds today. There is a Met Office wind warning in force across England and Wales. Heavy showers with the best of any sunshine across the south. So like I said, there is a wind warning in force. Gusts of up to 60 to 70 miles per hour is possible. We'll hold on to frequent showers across Northern Ireland, Northern England, into Wales as well, merging to give longer spells of rain. Likewise for parts of Scotland, but it's the south of England that holds on to some sunny spells, but blustery showers rattling their way through. Highs here of 18 to 19 degrees, but feeling rather cool in any heavy downpours and with the strong winds. So through Monday evening, there'll be some late evening sunny spells across the northern half of Scotland, but still holding on to some showers here. Likewise, it's a similar story elsewhere. Showers, especially across Northern Ireland and northern parts of England. Some of these could be heavy with the odd rumble of thunder as well. And we still hold on to those strong winds, gusts of 45 to 55 miles per hour, but they'll generally start easing as we go through Monday night as the area of low pressure tracks its way eastwards. The focus for the showers overnight into Tuesday then across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England and sinking their way southwards. Either side of that holding on to clear skies, but otherwise temperatures generally ranging from 9 to 13 degrees to start Tuesday. So Tuesday promises a brighter start for many of us, especially across Scotland and southern parts of England. We still hold on to a few showers, especially across northern parts of England, perhaps even a few bubbling up across parts of Wales, but otherwise lighter winds, a bit more of a calmer day out there before sunshine turns hazy from the west. Highs up to 18 or 19 degrees. Bye-bye.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Disruptions include an accident on the M6 northbound between junctions 4A and 5. On the A19 northbound in Stockton-on-Tees, a broken down vehicle near the A689 is causing lane closures, expected to resolve soon. Delays occur on the A628 westbound due to congestion in Tameside, with more disruptions in Solihull because of a collision on the M6 northbound. In West Sussex, a broken down vehicle on the M23 southbound between junctions 10A and 11 has caused lane closures. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways faces disruptions to and from London Marylebone. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's fast approaching 41 minutes after 1 o'clock now. Following Prince Harry's rather successful week in the UK, he said that his conscience is clear and that his memoir Spare was not about revenge.
Well, the culmination of his trip was a meeting with his father, King Charles.
Well, to get the inside scoop on what Harry's next visit could be, let's talk to royal journalist Ellen Coughlin. Good morning, Ellen. So, Prince Harry, he's kind of... good afternoon, even. He's kind of doing a PR-y thing now, trying to make himself look nicer, having written this nasty tell-all memoir, which kind of called Camilla a danger and all these things. Do you think that he's succeeding in his PR makeover?
Yes, actually, I don't think he needed a PR makeover, but I do think his most recent trip was very beneficial for him. The press coming out was a bit softer than it usually is, and obviously he donated a lot of money, I think $1 million, to a children's charity that came out. So he actually packed in a lot in his short time here in the UK, but he also said that he's hoping to, because the trip was so successful, he's hoping to spend a bit more time in the UK. So I do think that's only a good thing, and that came off the back of him meeting his father for the first time in, I think, over 2 years, face to face, and it was a 55-minute meeting. So that seemed to go quite well, and he said that he wants to focus more on his father in the coming year, and hopefully spend a bit more time in the UK as well, which is good, because I think he does miss a lot of the charities that he worked so closely with here in the UK. And also he has the Invictus Games coming up. That's in 2027, so that will be based in Bristol, as far as I know. And so yeah, we're going to see a lot more of Prince Harry, I think.
I'm not buying it.
It seems to raise the question, though. I mean, if he's so desperate to come back to the United Kingdom, he loved the trip so much, why did he something off in the first place?
Well, I don't think he was left with much choice, really. He was vilified in the press, and he had to protect Meghan. He's seen what the press done to his mother, so I don't think he was willing to take the risk on that one. And actually, this time round, during a conversation with The Guardian, he did say that he's more inclined now to bring Archie and Lilibet to the UK, which is a massive step for him, because we know there was problems with security and all of that. So I know that he was very cautious of bringing his family back here, just for safety reasons. So the fact that this trip went so well for him, even him considering bringing his children here in the future, is a good step, and it'll be great for Prince Charles and Camilla to get to know them properly.
I think it's an insult, actually, to the British public to pretend that he would be vilified in some way if he'd brought Meghan. That's not really it. What he did was vilify his own family, and the British public didn't really like the look of that, and actually neither did the Americans. Isn't the reality that it costs him, I think, about $20 million a year to live in that Montecito mansion, and the only way he makes his money is by pushing, throwing about his royal credentials. So he actually needs to have a really good relationship so that people will buy into his narrative again.
No, I think what they're doing in the States has already been very good. They've just donated $360,000 to the children of Gaza and Ukraine through their Archwell Foundation. So they have still been doing the charity work. He just had to put a pause to the charity work that's associated with the UK because of all the problems that were going on in the UK. Every time he came back recently, he was in a court case. So
well, he of his own making, Helen, to be honest. A court case of his own making.
Well, if you say so, but it wasn't something positive for him. At least this trip was something positive. He was able to dip his toe back into his charity work here as well in the UK, even though he had continued that while he was away in the States. But now he got such a positive reception from that hopefully he can continue going forward, and we'll see a lot more of him here.
All right, Ellen, thank you very much. Nah, I don't trust him at all. I don't trust him at all. I think he'll be in another Netflix, or if no, Netflix are probably, I think they've got rid of them. Spotify, no, they don't want them either. I don't know where he's going to sell this one. I don't know. I don't trust him.
It's a shame because I think this trip did show that there isn't the animosity in this country that he thought there was.
It's just his behaviour. I wished for a wonderful behaviour. I wished for a good example of a prince with his wife, which has been a wonderful example. And they just went off to America and then slagged his family off to the highest bidder when his grandmother and grandfather were both quite ill. I just think it's horrible.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Yes, Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick joins us live.
Now, if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, because you might need it, now that Britain's getting a bit colder, I've turned on my central heating.
Wow.
Here's the weather in Europe.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello, well, there's plenty of sunshine across Europe. There are a few showers around, but otherwise it's feeling very warm out there, a bit breezy across parts of Madeira and the Canary Islands, but across much of Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, lengthy sunny skies, and across Greece as well, not doing too bad. There are just a few showers towards the north of that, but otherwise a lot of sunshine on offer, temperatures up to 34 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Oh, cracking. I'm so busy chatting about Harry and Meghan there. Listen, stay with us. Lots more coming up on today's show. We'll be live in Kent, commemorating 85 years since the Battle of Britain.
All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Today, some joyous news. We're all very happy around the GB News studios, and that is because Emily Carver and Patrick Christie's have announced the birth of their baby son.
Yes, and what a name it is. George Alexander Peter Christie's was born at 5:26 a.m. on Friday morning. Both mother and baby are doing well, and I think he's a baby Patrick. He's a mini Patrick. Look at his little face.
Yeah.
So cute. It's lovely news, isn't it?
Oh,
and a lovely name.
It's got a lot of names.
It's a long name.
4 names, but a solid, strong name. George Alexander Peter Christie.
How many middle names have you got?
Huh?
How many middle names have you got?
None.
Have you not got any middle names?
Billy and Eamon Holmes.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Ellie, have you got
Do you
middle
not have
names?
a confirmation name? One you threw in yourself?
Well, I do. You did have.
I've got one. May.
Oh, have you?
What?
M-A-E. May.
Oh, right.
That's different. I had an Aunt May.
Yeah, it's an Irish name, isn't it? Yeah. What about you? What have you got?
Michael.
Very
Paul
nice.
Michael, which I was very excited about because it's like Paul Michael Glaser and Starsky and Hutch. So I used to run around thinking, yeah, it's not bad, is it?
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, my youngest son, Patrick, and Emily's child is Alexander, is his second name, and my son has this name Alexander. Well, it's supposed to be his main name, but then my wife, on her birthbed, realised. She said, "You wouldn't be calling this child after some football manager, would you?"
She clocked on.
So she wouldn't allow Alexander to be his main name.
Was it named after a certain football manager?
It was indeed.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's funny.
Didn't get anywhere with that, but there we go.
Nice try, though.
Maybe you could get a boy dog.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10-2. Now, it's the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Britain, with events taking place to honour the significant aerial battle from the Second World War.
Now, on this day in 1940, the Luftwaffe launched its largest and most concentrated attack against London, which was repelled by the RAF and marked a turning point in the war.
Never has so much been owed by so many to so few. Delighted to be joined now by our national reporter, Will Godley. Will, a really significant moment to remember.
Very significant indeed, and the skies are rather different to what they were 85 years ago in 1940. They're much windier today, which meant that a flight past due to fly over the skies here couldn't take off, but nonetheless we still pay tribute here with a very emotional and poignant service at 11 o'clock to remember the few, famously of course described by Sir Winston Churchill at the time speaking during the Battle of Britain, who said, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." Well, at that service today we had 2 minutes of silence to remember and commemorate the sacrifice and bravery of the few. They also played the last post, and people came from across the country. We spoke to someone who came from Manchester here, and also the family of Sir Keith Park, who came from New Zealand. He was an Air Chief Marshal responsible for giving orders to the 3,000 airmen on the wall here, and he was led to victory in the Battle of Britain. Earlier on today, I spoke to his great-nephew, Brian.
The Battle of Britain was significant in world history and the outcome of the Second World War. Keith Park played a critical function and role in that, calling the strategy and proved to be successful in the outcomes. So very, very important for us to be here.
Well, it's incredibly important for everybody here who's come to pay their respects as well. And the organisers of the service told me as well, it's particularly poignant this year on its 85th year because it's the first year there aren't any surviving members of the few after John Hemingway, whose name is just down here, died aged 105 in March this year. And Robert Jenrick wants that legacy to carry on, wanting every school to teach about the Battle of Britain. Well, the memorial here keep that legacy alive and remind us all why we owe so much to the few.
All right, thank you so much, Will Godley. Really good to talk to you. I'll just ask you, Tom, how many people do you think were in the RAF in 1940?
1940? Gosh. 10,000?
No, I've got 249,112. Wow. How many do you think are in the RAF now?
A vanishingly small number. I'd go for my original guess, 10,000.
34,000 apparently. I've just done they've done the thing on Google as well. That's right. Yeah. But that is, you know, approximately 249,112 people.
Wow.
Who are members of the RAF.
Full mobilisation, isn't it?
Isn't that? Whereas now we've got a dwindling number of people, and then there's all these DEI initiatives as well, which some people aren't allowed to join.
When I was a child, I grew up not a million miles away from Duxford Air Museum. It's a brilliant, brilliant museum if you get the chance to see it. I remember getting a little postcard that was actually sat on my wall growing up, which had that Churchill quote, "Never in the field of human conflict has so much been owed by so many to so few." And what a remarkable ratio. I mean, it was those few men who got up into the skies and shot off that aerial armada.
Do you think we still have that sort of patriotism now? Let us know. What do you think? gbnews.com/yoursay. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Do not go anywhere. We'll be speaking very shortly to Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick. We'll do that just after this. The weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's lively out there today. Tomorrow does offer something a little calmer and for many of us a little drier as well. There'll be some sunny spells, but it won't be completely dry. Certainly drier than today, which has been dominated by this deep area of low pressure heading away now into Norway, but leaving behind plenty of heavy showers through this evening. It's still very blustery out there as well. Slowly those winds will start to ease, but it's still going to be quite a windy night, and there'll be more showers for Northern Ireland, Northern England, a band of rain crossing Scotland. It does turn drier here through the early hours, allowing temperatures to maybe dip down to single figures, certainly in rural spots, but most towns and cities will hold up at 10 or 11 Celsius. On to tomorrow, and I said a calmer day. It won't be as windy, but it still won't be completely dry. A few showers feeding into South Wales and southwest England. Still a fairly brisk breeze blowing here, but just not as windy as today. Also, notice this line of thicker cloud affecting parts of northern England into the north coast of Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland. That'll continue to bring in showers through the day, and we'll also continue to see some showers over northern Scotland. But I suspect the central belt, east coast of Scotland, much of northeast England, starting dry, fine and sunny. In fact, we won't see a great deal of change through the day. This line of thicker cloud continuing to feed some showers into northern England, maybe some getting over the Pennines by the afternoon. One or two showers for West Wales, southwest England and northern Scotland, but many places will be dry and bright and with a bit more sunshine, with lighter winds. It'll feel a bit warmer than today. Temperatures close to average, high teens, maybe up to 20 across the southeast. Look at this, though, for Wednesday, it's all change again. Another area of low pressure comes rolling in during Tuesday night. That's going to bring some pretty heavy downpours, trying to work away there. So it does turn a bit drier through the day across Northern Ireland, Northern England. Parts of the south, though, may well stay fairly glum with further rain.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Monday, the 15th of September. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Acquare.
Now, Conservative Shadow Minister Danny Krueger has sensationally defected to the Reform Party, claiming the Conservatives are finished.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left.
The Peter Mandelson scandal just won't go away. Sir Keir Starmer is under growing pressure from his own MPs over the sacking of his US ambassador.
Yes, just 1 year after winning a landslide majority and Keir Starmer's premiership is on the rocks. Could the Peter Mandelson saga end up being the straw that breaks the camel's back? Find out more with me very soon.
Elsewhere, Channel migrants set to be deported on Air France flights this week. The first removals under Sir Keir Starmer's partial returns deal. But will they actually go ahead?
Well, the government have been talking up this partial returns deal for many weeks now, but the numbers going across to France will be very modest indeed compared to the thousands who regularly arrive on our shores.
More breaking news this hour. FBI Director Kash Patel has said that the lead suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination allegedly wrote a note spelling out his intentions to kill the Conservative commentator.
And prisoners are to be handed taxpayer-funded phones after a Labour-backed trial, despite thousands of illegal mobile phones already being seized behind bars every single year.
And Pope Leo condemns sky-high CEO pay in his first interview since the election, warning about Elon Musk's potential trillionaire status and the growing gulf between the rich and the poor.
Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few.
The stirring, famous words of Winston Churchill there as we mark the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. This comes as a new poll reveals that 2 in 3 under 40s don't know what the battle was. Well, there is a lot to cover this hour. We'll be speaking to the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, who's here to talk to us about the Battle of Britain, his campaign to make sure that all school kids are taught about it. But I think there's going to be another issue we ask him about as well.
Yes, whether he's going to defect to reform. Is it a case of when, not if? Because I'm wondering, does he think the Tories are toast? Was Danny Krueger right?
Well, Danny Krueger was Robert Jenrick's campaign manager when he stood to be leader of the Conservative Party. I mean, these two are peas in a pod. And now Danny Krueger has gone to join Reform. So where does that leave Robert Jenrick standing?
I don't know. He's popped out of the pod and he's into tepid water now. I don't know what... maybe it was also where he was. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure. When you pop out of the pod.
Yeah, no. What sort of pod is it? I'm not sure. But to get your thoughts in, gbnews.com/your say is the way to get involved across all of our stories this afternoon.
Good afternoon, it's 3 minutes past 2. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. And that breaking news this lunchtime, Danny Krueger, the Member of Parliament for East Wiltshire, has defected to Reform UK from the Conservatives. He becomes the first Shadow Cabinet Minister to defect to the party. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage made the announcement during a press conference this morning where he revealed Mr Krueger as the party's new head of preparing for government. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch said she won't be blown off course by these sorts of incidents. Danny Krueger said that he began thinking about defecting when Lee Anderson also joined the party.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. But I am not despondent, because conservatism is not over. It's never been needed more, and actually it's never been more vibrant. Because the failure of the Conservative Party has created space for an alternative.
Well, in other political news, the Prime Minister is facing further pressure from Labour MPs after he was forced to sack the US ambassador last week. Sir Keir Starmer is reportedly pinning his hopes on President Trump's state visit to regain the initiative and stave off a backbench revolt. Reports over the weekend suggest that the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, is set to launch a leadership bid to oust Sir Keir Starmer as Labour leader. The pressure comes as the Prime Minister sacked former American ambassador Lord Amandelson over his relationship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghardt, spoke to GB News earlier.
Last week, we were calling on the government to just come clean about what had happened with the whole Mandelson affair so that it didn't overshadow this visit, this very important visit, by the President of the United States. They haven't done that. It's dragged on into this week, and we're going to be trying again today to get the government to publish all of the Mandelson Epstein files so that everybody can see what the Prime Minister knew, when he knew it, and how this appointment came to be made in the first place.
Also today, GB News sources have confirmed that the deportation flights for Channel migrants entering the UK illegally will leave this week. Sources will not, however, confirm reports that the first flight will leave today. Under Sir Keir Starmer's partial return deal with France, asylum seekers who arrived in the UK last month have been issued with formal removal directions, telling them they'll be deported back to France within 5 days. Those returns are now reportedly imminent. There are also reports that asylum seekers will be escorted by Home Office security staff on commercial Air France flights rather than a chartered aircraft. The UK has summoned the Russian ambassador in London following the country's, quote, unprecedented violation of NATO airspace. The Foreign Office said the incursions into Polish and Romanian airspace were utterly unacceptable. Andrei Kellin has therefore been summoned by the department. A Foreign Office spokesman said that the UK stands united with Poland, Romania, Ukraine and our NATO allies in unreservedly condemning these reckless actions. The family of former world champion Ricky Hatton have paid tribute to the boxer after his death at the age of 46. In a statement released by Greater Manchester Police, his family said he inspired generations, adding that to us he was our son, a loving father, grandfather, brother and true friend to many. Mr Hatton was found dead at his home in Hyde yesterday morning. The death is not being treated as suspicious by police. A man in his 30s has been arrested on suspicion of rape after a Sikh woman reported a, quote, racially motivated attack while on her way to work. The victim, reported to be a British-born Sikh in her 20s, told officers a racist remark was made to her during the incident in Oldbury last Tuesday. The perpetrators allegedly told the woman, "You don't belong in this country, get out," as they sexually assaulted her, the Sikh Federation said. West Midlands Police said that the man was detained yesterday evening and remains in custody. And pub giant JD Wetherspoon has said it will cut prices on food and drink for just one day later this week to highlight what it calls a tax disparity. The company, which runs 794 pubs in the UK and Ireland, said it will drop prices by 7.5% on Thursday. Wetherspoon said the reduction is to show the government the potential impact of a VAT reduction for the industry. Tim Martin, founder of the chain, said that the current rules mean that pubs and restaurants subsidise supermarkets. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's take a look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3617 and €1.1575. The price of gold is £2,679.86 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,288 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, sensational news in politics today. Not only that reform Defection, which we'll have more on a little bit later this hour, but there's also questions now over the future of the Prime Minister, under huge pressure over his role in the Peter Mandelson scandal.
Yes, many Labour MPs are reportedly furious after the Business Secretary Peter Kyle admitted that the appointment of Mandelson as the UK's ambassador to the United States was judged to be worth the risk, despite his own links to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
And the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, who's seen as a possible replacement for Sir Keir, well, he's got the backing of Labour MPs who stopped the leadership forcing through major welfare reforms earlier this year.
So we're joined now by GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. Olivia, is Keir Starmer in trouble?
Well, it certainly feels as though the Prime Minister is on the rocks. There are plenty of Labour MPs who are quietly whispering that perhaps Keir Starmer is not the man to lead the Labour Party into the general election. Of course, the Mandelson lapse of political judgment is by no means the first mistake that Keir Starmer has made in his 16 months in office. Very recently, we had the Angela Rayner saga, where the Prime Minister stood by his deputy right until the very last moment, until she was forced to resign because of that investigation by Laurie Magnus. That was seen by many as the Prime Minister wasting political capital, as he did with the welfare U-turn and, of course, the winter fuel U-turn before that. There are people saying that perhaps Keir Starmer just doesn't have enough good political judgment. That said, I think we should be careful not to sort of overplay the idea that the Prime Minister is about to, be deposed by his MPs, partly because there isn't really an obvious person to replace him. Lots of the Labour Party, both the parliamentary party and the members, like the idea of Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Manchester. And Andy Burnham is certainly on manoeuvres. He set up this think tank calling it Mainstream. It's said to be a sort of pressure group, but it sounds very much as though it's Andy Burnham setting himself up as a potential replacement for Keir Starmer. But there are quite a few hurdles before Andy Burnham could actually be leader of the Labour Party. He currently isn't a member of the parliamentary party. He doesn't have a seat. And if he were to become leader of the Labour Party, he would have to fight and win a by-election. At the moment, it seems not at all guaranteed that Labour could win any by-election across the country. And of course, Reform are saying that they would throw the kitchen sink at any by-election which Andy Burnham was standing in. So Keir Starmer is looking shaky, and I think a lot of whether he can hold on to his position will depend on exactly what we find out over the next week about what Keir Starmer knew and when about Lord Mandelson. Now, there are lots of questions about why he hired Lord Mandelson in the first place, given that he was the US ambassador was known to have links with Jeffrey Epstein. But more personally, there are questions surrounding precisely what happened last week. What we've heard from the Prime Minister's spokesman is that on Tuesday, the Foreign Office got this cache of emails from Bloomberg between Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Mandelson. On Tuesday, the Foreign Office launched its investigation into Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein. Then on Wednesday, Peter Mandelson did an interview with The Sun where he said that the embarrassing emails were about to come to light. But on Wednesday at 12 o'clock, midday, Keir Starmer stood up in the House of Commons and roundly defended the US ambassador. Now, why did he do that? Why, when the Foreign Office was launching an investigation and when Mandelson himself had admitted that there were embarrassing emails between the two of them, why did Keir Starmer choose to stand up in the Commons and continue to defend him? That is the really, really big question. One potential answer is that he wasn't given the full information. If not, then why not? Why is the Downing Street comms machine so faulty? Or perhaps he didn't think it was important to read the information. And if that's the case, well, why not? Again, is this a lack of political judgment? So I think maybe when those questions are answered later in the week, we might have a clearer idea of just how shaky Keir Starmer's position is at the moment.
This is a man who was elected on the promise to clean up politics, to stop these sort of scandals and misjudgments and U-turns that we saw, particularly under the Boris Johnson premiership. Olivia, we'll have to leave it there, but thanks indeed for joining us. What an extraordinary time for this government.
I think perhaps he did know, but he sort of chose to do that anyway because he didn't really know what else to do.
He thought he could get away with it?
No, maybe he just knew and thought, oh, well, I don't know what to do here, as he's a bit on the fence with everything. Oh, I'll just back him, I don't know. Because what would you do if you knew? Would you, in Prime Minister's questions, if you knew, would you say no?
I think you could have the foresight to see where it was all going. I think that's the argument, that if even Kemi Badenoch, who doesn't have the longest political antenna in the world, could clearly see that Mandelson was going to go and did all 6 questions on that, I mean, surely someone in the Prime Minister's circle should have been able to see that too.
I don't know why he employed him in the first place, in all honesty, but hey-ho.
Well, Danny Krueger has, in other news, defected from the Conservative Party to the Reform Party. He's the first sitting Tory MP to move to Reform ever. He'll head up a department within the party to help prepare it for government.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. I am honoured to have been asked by Nigel to work with him, with Zia Youssef, with Richard Tice and our other colleagues to help Reform prepare for government. This is a team with the vision, the energy and the ideas that we need. Reform UK is a radical force, but not a revolutionary one. Our mission is not just to overthrow the current system. It is to restore the system that we need. Limited government, accountable power, a strong society, a state that works in the interests of the people. Radical restoration. That is the reform the country needs.
All right, well, we're joined now by Kevin Schofield. He's the political editor of the Huffington Post UK. Kevin, a lot of people are saying this is a real coup for Reform UK, and it's a real, it's a really bad thing for the Conservative Party. How do you think the average voter, who may be a Reform supporter, views that particular defection?
I mean, I'd imagine that the average voter probably doesn't know who Danny Krueger is before today. But those of us in Westminster, I think you mentioned it earlier, know that Danny Krueger was a speechwriter to David Cameron. He was heavily involved in Robert Jenrick's campaign to be Tory leader last year. So he's not an insignificant figure, far from it. And it's what his defection signifies. Now, I know you've got Robert Jenrick coming on the show later, which will be fascinating to see what his response to it is, but I think a lot of Conservatives will look at it and think, well, if Danny Krueger thinks the game is up, then perhaps it is.
I suppose one of the criticisms that Reform has sort of faced over the course of the last year or so has been, OK, look, you're very popular, you do the broad brushstroke sort of thing, but no one on the Reform front bench, so to speak, is a sort of details guy. I mean, Nigel Farage does the sort of broad brushstrokes, but perhaps where Danny Krueger comes in is a legitimate point of a gap amongst those Reform MPs. The sort of depth of thought that Krueger is known for, I suppose it's a canny appointment in that sense, but thinking to that, I mean, who could be next?
Well, literally anyone could be next. I think it's interesting that most of the, if not all of the Conservative defections thus far have been from the right of the party. So I think that's where you would be looking towards now. Clearly, Robert Jenrick, all things being equal, would be a possibility, but I just can't see it. I think he still hankers after Kemi Badenoch's job. I don't think he fancies vying for the spotlight with Nigel Farage. So I think that's probably off limits. Boris Johnson is another one, obviously, who Zia Youssef said quite categorically last week he will not be defecting to Reform. I think that's out of the question. But anyone really on the right of the party right now is probably looking at the opinion polls thinking, in pure survival terms, the best chance I've got of still being an MP after the next election is if I jump ship to Reform. I think the danger, though, for Reform is that they become seen as a repository for disenchanted Conservatives, that they're basically the Tory party 2.0. A lot of voters think, well, hang on a minute, the Tories played a large part in getting the country into the mess that it's in. Why on earth should we vote for a party that's just stuffed full of those same Tories? So maybe they want to look to get people from other parties as well to broaden their appeal. But certainly in the short term, I think right-wing Conservatives, I think, is a pretty rich seam for reform
that was the point I was making, that really, how does it look to the public? Like you said, they don't really know who Danny Krueger is unless you're in his constituency. So they're thinking another Tory MP going to reform. And is that a good or bad thing? I think in their eyes it might be a bad thing. Kevin Schofield, thank you very much. He's the editor of HuffPost.
Yeah, I have to say it's going to be fascinating because Nigel Farage does like to time these things to have maximum impact. Are we going to see another defection on the eve of Conservative Party conference?
Robert Jenrick.
No, not Robert. I don't know, we could keep our eyes out. I just doubt that it would be Jenrick.
Would you want to lead the Conservative Party, though? They are a busted flush. Even genuine Tory voters, I have to admit, I voted for them.
They're the second largest party in Parliament.
Yeah, but technically, I don't think they are. In Parliament, yes.
But not in the polls.
But not in the polls.
Yeah. Well, GB News sources have confirmed that the first deportations of Channel migrants back to France are set to take place this week.
Yes, it is part of the government's partial returns deal with France. Home Office security staff are expected to escort asylum seekers onto commercial flights.
Well, joining us here in the studio is our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Just fresh off a commercial flight yourself after a little holiday. We've missed you.
You went to visit his cat.
No migrants on board, from what I could see. But it's difficult to tell with lots of Turkish nationals on board. I was in Turkey for a couple of weeks.
It would be strange, would it not, be getting on a commercial flight and sort of seeing a bunch of illegal migrants escorted by Home Office officials? I mean,
happens a lot. Yeah. There are regular sort of flights, and they use scheduled flights, I should say, out because it's much cheaper than having to charter an airline to do it specifically for the job. So yeah, you could be sitting next to someone and not even really know it. And some may be when these Air France flights, we understand, will be heading back probably to Charles de Gaulle this week, but it won't be many. If you're expecting that we're going to see hundreds, thousands of returns, that's not the case. There's probably going to be no more than 50 this week. Now, the government hopes that they'll be able to expand it out in the weeks and months ahead, but there's absolutely no guarantee that France will be in the mindset to have lots of migrants returned back to their soil, even if there's a quid pro quo where they can shove some of their migrants in France back across to the UK. So let's see how that develops. But in terms of a deterrent, is it really a deterrent if 50 or so a week are going across the channel when potentially hundreds, on a good week, thousands may be crossing the channel? Well, many people would argue not. I want to show you a bit of video now that shows you what is absolutely the best deterrent in the English Channel, and that is the weather condition in the Channel. So this is this morning in the English Channel.
It's really windy.
And it's been getting up. It's going to be gale force 10 in the Channel this afternoon. And we've had a lot, maybe not as severe as this, but a lot of fairly strong winds and heavy swells in the channels that make these flimsy boats unable to cross the channel. That's been something that actually is, I'm sure, very welcome from the government's point of view, but we would have been looking at far, far higher numbers than we're currently at. I mean, we're currently at 32,000, 31,000 for the year. I'd suggest we'd probably be up at least 35, maybe 36,000 by now, which would be matching last year's total for the whole of the year.
Wow,
so the government can thank Mother Nature. She's been helping Keir Starmer and others.
It is astonishing, isn't it? We're supposedly the 21st century. You know, we're in command of everything that we see, and yet it's Poseidon and his waves that actually stop.
Well, I think the idea of a wave machine was a very good idea ages ago, when somebody suggested that if you just change the conditions so people can't come over.
Well, but what if we want to do a charity swim?
We'll do that. You can do that once we switch it off for a bit.
Well, then the boats will come.
But you'll know when you're switching off, so you'll know when they're ready to jettison off. So then you can be there waiting on the coast to stop them.
All I'd say is it would have to be a very big wave machine. I mean, we're talking 70 miles of coast.
No, you do a bit way when it was just at the edge of British territory.
Well, goodness me, lots to discuss.
Thank you very much, Mark White.
Thank you.
Robert Jenrick will be joining us shortly. But first, it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to get our biggest prize to date. It's worth over £104,000. Here are the details.
It's our biggest, greatest Great British giveaway to date. Your chance to win a prize package worth over £104,000. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primero motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas, sky view roof lights, and has all the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure any adventures in your motorhome are taken in style.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain. This is GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. We'll be speaking to Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick very shortly.
Or indeed Shadow Justice Secretary.
Oh, did I call him? Oh, sorry.
Promoted him.
Sorry,
no,
not yet. I don't know what, if ever, actually.
Oh, well.
Conservatives end up being toast, which is a shame.
But that is a pertinent point of discussion, isn't it? I mean, it's remarkable that given that the Labour Party has crashed so precipitously in the polls, it's not the Conservative Party that have been the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, it's really very tragic. And I think it was the internal wrangling that really irritated a lot of the voters who'd voted for them initially, and the way they kind of messed up their majority, and they kept, losing MPs constantly, and they didn't listen to what the people were saying, which was a shame.
It did feel like a real sense of chaos, didn't it? But, I mean, it does feel like a sense of chaos now under Labour as well. I mean, very, very curious. But I'm delighted to say that the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, does join us now. And, Robert, you have joined us to talk about the Battle of Britain. We will be speaking about that, of course. It's such an important issue, particularly for young people in Britain today. But before we get to that, I hope you won't mind, Danny Krueger has defected to Reform today. He was your campaign manager when you stood to be leader of the Conservative Party. He seemed to be an ideological soulmate of yours. What does that say about your fellow travellers within the Conservative Party?
Well, look, obviously I'm very sad to see Danny leave the Conservative Party. He's a personal friend of mine, and he's somebody I hold in very high regard. But I disagree with him profoundly on this issue. Did the Conservative Party make mistakes when it was in government? Yes, absolutely. And I have been as frank as anyone about that. Can we turn around the Conservative Party over time and regain the public's trust and confidence? Yes, I believe that we can do. Is the country in a mess, as Danny has said? Yes, I think it is. I think there are massive challenges now with flatlining economic growth, with mass migration, with a state that just doesn't seem to be working for people. Can we turn the country around? Yes, I think we can, if we understand how we can bring forward serious, credible solutions to those challenges. And that's the task for the Conservative Party right now. It is going to be a long road. There's a mountain to climb, but I do believe we can make it happen.
Are you not tempted, though, to jump ship if it starts to go in the wrong direction? It does feel like it is already, and a lot of people are saying that the Conservative Party are toast. It would be very sad to see a lot of people saying they won't be a relevant party. If it gets to that stage, will you not surely be tempted to perhaps consider reform?
No, look, it's only a year into a 4 or 5 year parliament. A lot can and will happen in the years ahead. The most important thing is to focus on changing the Conservative Party. And that means being painfully honest about the mistakes that we made when we were in government, levelling with the public about those, demonstrating that we are a different party to the one that we were when we were in office, and then bringing forward serious answers so that we can begin to regain the trust of the public. That's what I'm focusing on in my job as Shadow Justice Secretary, and that's what I want the whole party to do in the years ahead.
Hasn't that job become harder for you today? The people that align with you in the party are leaving the Conservative Party. If Danny Krueger has gone across, that's one fewer person in the sort of shadow ministerial team who is arguing what you were arguing. No doubt there'll be members that sort of follow his lead and move across from the Conservative Party to the Reform Party too. It's now a harder task from your perspective to change the Conservative Party into something that you would like to see.
Well, look, Danny's made his decision, and I respect that, although I disagree with it. What I need to do now, and the fellow members of the Conservative Party, is focus on the future. There's no point looking backwards. And we've got to be working as hard as we possibly can to hold Labour to account and to be the best version of ourselves. And I think you can see in the last couple of weeks some of the progress that has in fact been made. The way in which the Conservative Party held Labour to account that led to the resignation of Angela Rayner for evading her taxes, holding Keir Starmer to account for his foolish, irresponsible decision to appoint Peter Mandelson as ambassador to Washington that's led to his resignation, and now ensuring that the right questions are being asked on that. This is the work of opposition. That's what we need to keep on doing now. And I think over time, and I do believe it's going to be a long road, we can begin to regain the trust of the public and demonstrate the Tory party is a different party to the one of the recent past.
All right, well, I'll only ask you one more question on this then. Is Kemi Badenoch the right person to lead the Conservatives into the next general election, in your view?
Look, I think it's a very difficult job being leader of the opposition, particularly after you've just suffered your worst ever election defeat. Kemi was elected a year ago. She has been holding Labour to account. She's been forcing change on a number of very important issues, from grooming gangs to the winter fuel allowance, and I'm supporting her. I wouldn't have joined the shadow cabinet if I didn't believe that, and I'm working as hard as I can to bring forward serious answers to the challenges that I see in the justice space, whether it's the two-tier sentencing, early release of prisoners onto our streets, the fact that so much of Britain almost feels lawless right now, with epidemics of shoplifting and burglary and mobile phone theft, you name it. That's my focus at the moment.
So that's a yes, then? She is?
Yes.
Right, now we should draw a line under that and get to the reason we brought you onto the programme in the first place. It is, of course, the day in which we honour those who defended this country, the few who fought off the many, who defended the many, to win the Battle of Britain and keep Britain free from Nazi tyranny. Amazingly, a huge proportion of under 40s don't know what the Battle of Britain was.
That's right. A poll that we commissioned that has come out today shows that 2 in 3 younger Brits don't know what the Battle of Britain was. And I think that's incredibly sad, because this was one of the most important, most pivotal moments in the entire history of our nation, a moment in which actually a very small number of incredibly brave people stepped up to defend the country that they love. And as a result of their self-sacrifice, the 500 or more pilots who died, and the many others who supported them on the ground, on airfields and radar stations, and as volunteer firefighters in cities like London, we were able to prevail. And as a result of that, set ourselves on course to defeat the Nazis, defend our freedoms, and defend the free world. And it's incredibly important that the next generation understands that and carries it forward. And so I want this to be taught in schools properly, and educate people about the things that we should all understand and feel pride in our history and heritage.
Why do you think it isn't taught in schools? Because I'm surprised it isn't. I had to re-educate myself about the Battle of Britain fully and understand it. But why do you think educators appear to have missed this?
Well, there are obviously important national events that are on the national curriculum, but this one has fallen through, and I want to make sure that that changes. Look, it's always a battle as to what gets onto the national curriculum, but what could be more important than remembering this moment in our history where the very existence of our country was at stake? And we owe so much to that generation, the wartime generation, the greatest generation, frankly, and we should be ensuring that it doesn't slip out of our national consciousness. And it's no surprise that so many young people denigrate our history if they're not being taught about these moments which provoke such pride in our national story. And so I want to change that, and I've produced a video today on social media which I hope goes a very small way into informing more people about that great moment in our history.
Yes, and Robert, in that video you're flying in a Spitfire, the iconic plane of the RAF during this time. But sadly, of course, now, today, no pilot who fought in the Battle of Britain remains alive. It's harder to keep that flame alive when those who were there to tell the story are becoming so much fewer in number, or in the case of this specific battle, no one's here left at all.
Well, look, that's right. There are, sadly, no surviving Battle of Britain pilots. There are people still alive who lived through the period of the Battle of Britain, lived through the Blitz, and they're our last link to that great generation. But that only makes it all the more important that those of us who are younger do everything we can to ensure that this is passed on to future generations by getting it into schools, ensuring that the media properly report this, and we teach our own children and grandchildren all about what happened during that period, because these were real heroes. You know, that term is bandied around, but often doesn't really do justice to people like this. These are people who, their bravery, their self-sacrifice, they're willing to put their lives on the line was so incredible and deserves so much respect. You know, at one point, a Battle of Britain pilot in a Spitfire had a life expectancy of just 6 weeks or less. They were putting themselves in immense, almost unfathomable personal danger, and they did it out of love of our country, and we should ensure that their memory never dies.
All right, Robert Jenrick, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is Robert Jenrick. He's the Shadow Justice Secretary. Yeah. Well, coming up...
Yes, Pope Leo condemns sky-high CEO pay, warning about Elon Musk's possible trillionaire status and the widening gap between rich and poor. Yeah. But is the Pope the right man to be making that message from his golden throne?
That's what I'm thinking. All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's lively out there today. Tomorrow does offer something a little calmer and for many of us a little drier as well. There'll be some sunny spells, but it won't be completely dry. Certainly drier than today, which has been dominated by this deep area of low pressure heading away now into Norway, but leaving behind plenty of heavy showers through this evening. It's still very blustery out there as well. Slowly those winds will start to ease, but it's still going to be quite a windy night, and there'll be more showers for Northern Ireland, Northern England, a band of rain crossing Scotland. It does turn drier here through the early hours, allowing temperatures to maybe dip down to single figures, certainly in rural spots, but most towns and cities will hold up at 10 or 11 Celsius. On to tomorrow, and I said a calmer day. It won't be as windy, but it still won't be completely dry. A few showers feeding into South Wales and South West England. Still a fairly brisk breeze blowing here, but just not as windy as today. Also, notice this line of thicker cloud affecting parts of northern England into the north coast of Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland. That'll continue to bring in showers through the day, and we'll also continue to see some showers over northern Scotland. But I suspect the central belt, east coast of Scotland, much of northeast England, starting dry, fine and sunny. In fact, we won't see a great deal of change through the day. This line of thicker cloud continuing to feed some showers into northern England, maybe some getting over the Pennines by the afternoon. 1 or 2 showers for West Wales, Southwest England and northern Scotland, but many places will be dry and bright and with a bit more sunshine, with lighter winds. It'll feel a bit warmer than today. Temperatures close to average, high teens, maybe up to 20 across the southeast. Look at this, though, for Wednesday, it's all change again. Another area of low pressure comes rolling in during Tuesday night. That's going to bring some pretty heavy downpours, trying to work away there. So it does turn a bit drier through the day across Northern Ireland, Northern England. Parts of the south, though, may well stay fairly glum with further rain.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. There's an accident on the A14 westbound between junctions 11 and 10, closing all lanes westbound between junction 13 Thrapston and 10 Burton Latimer. M11 northbound in Greater London between junctions 4 and 6 has an emergency with 1 lane closed. The M27 eastbound between junctions 5 and 7 faces delays due to a broken down vehicle. Dorset's A35 eastbound between the A3052 and the A3066 has congestion with a 10-minute delay. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways faces major disruptions at Oxford, while Avanti West Coast encounters issues between Shepherd's Bush and London Euston and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. 42 minutes after 2 o'clock. Now, Pope Leo has taken aim at Elon Musk's wealth as the owner of the X and Tesla closes in on becoming the first trillionaire.
Well, the Pope used his first interview in the role to criticise the continuously wider gap between the income levels of the working class and the money that the wealthiest receive.
Yeah, so we're joined by Mark Lambert, who's the co-host of the Catholic Unscripted podcast. Look, Mark, I find it a little bit... Listening to the Pope comparing, I mean, the Vatican is worth, what, 20 billion, and he sits on a throne that is worth, you know, do you know what I mean? All the buildings and the history, they were once almost the mafia of Italy in a way. For him to sort of talk in that way about Elon Musk, who has literally earned his wealth, I think it's a bit much, really, isn't he?
I think it's a great position to take. Thank you very much for having me on. I think the facts of the matter are that the Vatican is 83 million euros in debt at the moment, and the Catholic Church is the largest charitable organisation in the world. So this idea that the Pope sits on a golden throne and is complete nonsense. The church holds these treasures. Yeah, it might be asset rich, but it holds these treasures in posterity for all of us. And if you go to St. Peter's, it doesn't cost you anything to go into the basilica and enjoy.
No, that's not quite right. The total wealth is apparently between 10 to 15 billion at various points, and the wealth comes from investments in banking, real estate, and all that kind of stuff, and industries and all sorts. Vatican museums and also donations. So donations is one part of it, but other parts are from investments, banking, real estate, and so on and so forth.
Well, in terms of you might be talking about in terms of assets, but if you check your facts, the last set of accounts that were prepared for audit in 2024 give a huge deficit. So actually, there's a huge operating deficit in terms of the financial assets, the liquid assets that are available for the Vatican. So, popes are personally very poor. They don't really have any personal effects whatsoever. And the whole point here is, Pope Leo is standing in a long tradition of Catholic social teaching that insists that people matter more than profits. I mean, 60 years ago, a CEO might have earned 5 times what an ordinary worker makes. Today, it's 600 times.
But today we know that a CEO is worth to a company a lot more. I mean, the difference between a good CEO and a bad CEO, you can just see the value of these companies that are now worth incredible. I mean, companies like Google or Apple are worth more than countries now. And I mean, if the CEO is one person versus another, that's I mean, way more than the amount that they're paid. What I'm saying here is that shouldn't the Pope be concerned about how well off the poor are? Shouldn't the ultimate concern of religious institutions be to look to the wealth of the poor rather than how much the people at the top have?
Well, I think that's exactly what he is doing here, because what he's saying is that labour is more important than capital. So it has to work from the numbers up, and we have to have an understanding.
But that's a zero-sum sort of thinking.
No, I don't think it is at all. I run a business, and when I ran my business, I always think that the people who work with me are the most important people. It's not about one person. It doesn't matter whether you're Elon Musk.
No, of course, I understand what you're saying there, but you can, of course, talk about concern for the people at the low end. You don't have to talk about them in relation to the people who are at the top.
No, but, OK, let me tell you a little story. I went to a factory in Germany once, and the CEO of the factory was taking me around and introducing me to his staff. And everyone who he introduced me to, he was like, oh, this is Hans. He is the best machine operator we've got. This is his role. He understood every single thing that each one of those people did. And it seemed very obvious to me at the end of that visit that it was the value that was put on the staff and the fact that they were paid a decent wage, that they were respected in their role, that allowed that company to operate when we have no screwdriver manufacturers in the UK anymore. We had 27 when I started in 1989 in engineering, and now we've got none.
But
and
yeah,
that's
okay.
because we've outsourced all the manufacturing to China.
OK, well, look, Mark, there's no evidence that Elon Musk doesn't kind of respect and treat his workers well as well. And let's be honest, the love of money is the root of all evil, but the creation of wealth is good. But the Pope doesn't need to worry, because it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Thank you very much, Mark Lambert. Really good to talk to you. He's the co-host of the Catholic Unscripted podcast.
Oh, no, great stuff there. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Yes, should prisoners get phones? Labour backs trials for taxpayer-funded handsets, despite thousands of illegal mobiles already seized behind bars each year.
Now, if you're in search for holiday sunshine, here's the weather.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello, well, there's plenty of sunshine across Europe. There are a few showers around, but otherwise it's feeling very warm out there. A bit breezy across parts of Madeira and the Canary Islands, but across much of Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, lengthy sunny skies. And across Greece as well, not doing too bad. There are just a few showers towards the north of that, but otherwise a lot of sunshine on offer, temperatures up to 34 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Now, Constance Martin and Mark Gordon are due to be sentenced after being found guilty of gross negligence, manslaughter over their baby's death. Let's cross live now to the Old Bailey.
The car you were driving caught fire, and when the fire had been extinguished, a placenta was found. When it was found, you had abandoned the car and made your getaway. Not only did you leave the placenta with the car, you left a vast quantity of other items, including baby clothes, a passport, personal belongings, a quantity of cash, more than 30 mobile phones, and a live cat. What then occurred over the following days was you travelled long distances using taxis, crisscrossing England between various ports. Whatever your ultimate plan, your paramount concern seems to have been to avoid detection and to get abroad, although without any passport for either of you, or indeed the baby, that may have been very difficult to achieve. In my judgment, it is clear that throughout the period from the end of December until your arrest, neither of you gave much, if any, thought to the care or welfare of your baby. Your focus was on yourselves. The period 2017 to 2022. Back in 2017, you were both given the clearest of warnings about the perils of living with a newborn baby in a tent during the winter months. You had also been warned of the risks of unsafe co-sleeping. A brief review of the history of events with your other children displays an arrogance and lack of thought for anyone else other than yourselves. Whilst you have both sought to paint a picture of being caring parents, both in this court and in the course of the family court proceedings, as even the material set out in the agreed facts that both criminal trials amply demonstrates, The actual position was very different. In June 2017, Martin, you presented at St Mary's Hospital in London. Concerns were raised. At that time, you were 6 months pregnant and had not sought any NHS antenatal care. You were to say that you and Gordon had been living in a camper van that was parked nearby. On the 26th of September 2017, a social service department in London issued a national hospital alert as they had been unable to locate either of you. Later that same year, when in the early stages of labour with your first child, you presented at a hospital in Wales. Martin, you gave the name of Isabella O'Brien, and Gordon the name of James Amer. No NHS antenatal care had been provided. Martin, you told hospital staff you'd travel from Leeds to avoid family. You spoke with a fake Irish accent. You claimed to be from the travelling community and had been raised in a caravan. You said you were no longer in a relationship with the father of the child, and that your family disapproved of a child being born out of wedlock. You claimed never to have been to school, not to have been registered with a GP, and didn't have an NHS number. You claimed that Gordon, using the name Amer, was a friend you'd known for about a month, but was not the father of the child. You said you didn't have anything with you for the baby. The lies told indicate the level of deception you were content to practice to suit yourselves. You gave birth to your first child under the assumed identity, Isabella O'Brien, still using a fake Irish accent. Despite what had been claimed, Gordon was the father. Your true identities were ascertained after a social worker recalled the nationwide alert. Police had been called and they found a passport in the name of Martin. You were to tell social workers who attended the hospital that you and Gordon had been evicted from your flat in London and had thereafter lived in a camper van. You also said you had moved to Wales to get away from your family, but had struggled with the homeless community there. You said that you had thought that if you posed as travellers, you'd be given social housing. You said you were homeless and didn't know how you would meet the needs of the baby in your current situation. You said you were a capable woman and would arrange for housing and state benefits to help you care for the child. You said you'd not made any inquiries about state benefits and were advised that this was not typically a quick process. A social worker explained too that social services had a number of concerns, including the falsifying of names. The two of you had been living in a tent. You had been living in a tent in a wooden area, which, Martin, you said had been your idea. You also said you would engage with social care professionals and that your child was your priority. When asked if you had any provisions for the child, you said you had some clothing and nappies. You were informed that some baby grows and nappies were simply not enough for a newborn baby to be safe. In November 2017, you were advised to reach out to your family and attempt to secure housing. As you were claiming to be homeless and there was inadequate preparations for a baby, it was made clear that a court order would be sought if you were unable to establish a suitable home for yourself and the baby. An interim care order was made in relation to the child. A number of temporary mother and baby placements were then made. In December 2017, a social worker explained to you, Gordon, that there were concerns about the lack of preparation for the birth of the child. You appeared to accept some of the concerns, but maintained that everyone has a right to choose how they live, and that you felt that you and Martin should not be penalised or discriminated against because your lifestyle was not mainstream. A supervision order was made, which allowed the two of you to care for your child under the supervision of social services. That order was discharged in 2018. You then moved to London with no intervention from social services. Your second child was born in April 2019. In December that year, legal proceedings were commenced in relation to the children with an application for wardship. In January 2020, a local authority commenced care proceedings. Whilst those proceedings were underway, a third child was born in May 2020. An emergency protection order was made in relation to that child. The local authority's plan, pre-birth in respect of the third child, was on the day of birth. The child should be placed with you, Martin, in a residential assessment unit with Gordon to join later. A separation order was made in June 2020 as you both refused placement in a residential unit. On the 5th of May 2021, midwives at Sydenham Green Health Centre received a self-referral from you, Martin. You were then heavily pregnant. Appointments were arranged for you to see a midwife and to have an urgent antenatal scan. You did not attend the appointments. You emailed the midwife to say you'd decided to have a private scan and would email social services the result. When contacted by phone, you repeated this account. You never emailed the results of any scan. In mid-May 2021, a social worker conducted an unplanned home visit. Martin, you answered the door. You were heavily pregnant. You hid your body behind the door and were adamant that the social worker would not be entering the address. You told the social worker you did not want social services to be draconian and take your baby away. You refused to provide a mobile phone number and the social worker provided hers. 3 days later, you were telephoned the social worker and stated you'd obtained private health care for the pregnancy but wouldn't say where. You also said you planned to have the baby in hospital and that there were no health concerns, so you didn't need to share any medical records. You were told that social services required the information in advance to ensure the safety and the safe delivery of the baby, but you put the phone down. A fourth child was born at Lewisham Hospital on the 19th of May 2021, at full term with no medical concerns. That same month, a social worker based in Greenwich conducted a hospital visit with you both. The visit was organised because you had told the hospital you planned to leave the hospital and go to court for a hearing concerning the older children. You were offered a video link to the court from hospital but declined. During the visit, the social worker explained the baby was not ready to be discharged and that, Martin, you should be looking after your baby and not leaving that to the nurses who had other duties. You both persisted in your intention to leave the hospital. It was explained to you that if you did so, this will be recorded in the social care record as abandoning the child. You both then left the hospital without the child. At Martin, you were told that if you left, you would not be able to return to the ward due to COVID concerns. Despite that, you attempted to return to the ward the next day and became upset when refused entry as you refused to take a COVID test. At a meeting with social services on the 25th of May 2021.
That is that live from the Old Bailey. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show, picking up now until 6 p.m. That is passing sentence on Constance Martin and Mark Gordon at the Old Bailey. Of course, the horrific crime of their newborn baby being killed. And then we are going to be covering this throughout all the rest of the show. And indeed, a very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you live across the UK with all the very latest news, debate and analysis. Here's what's coming up on today's action-packed show. Nigel Farage has secured the defection of his first sitting MP, with Tory Danny Krueger crossing the floor. Mr Krueger roared, "The Tories are dead," with Sir Keir Starmer on the gangplank. Is Kemi Badenoch about to fall into shark-infested waters herself?
Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left.
And is Sir Keir Starmer drinking in the Last Chance saloon? His popularity is at rock bottom. He's been tainted by the Peter Mandelson and the Angela Rayner scandals. And in the last few minutes, one of his closest aides has resigned. Labour MPs are running around. Andy Burnham, as Sir Keir Starmer's successor, one Labour MP has blasted. This administration is coming